Because you've got powerful legs. How did you get the physique? Was it gym or how did you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing mind.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump! You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 528th edition of the Boxing Asylum NUTHOUSE podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings and joining me on the call we have Matty Di Gialinardo, Rapping Rob Kelly and Andy Patterson, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everyone listening through the week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and SoundCloud. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of June. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. We are on to episode 528, all rested, relaxed and recuperated after our break last weekend. We're going to be talking maybe a little bit of IOKA in Japan later on, if anybody saw it. A bit of Carlos Adames. We had Prograis last week. Tim Zhu might touch upon that. Jared Anderson and Dalton Smith next week. Not stellar boxing, but we have plenty to keep us going. Vinny the Doorman was fighting last night as well.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Also, next week is going to be the fight between Savannah Marshall and Franchon Cruz-Dezurn for all the belts at 168. So, yeah.
I was going to say, I was getting to it, but can't confess that I was, Matty, to be honest.
I know you weren't. I know you well, Mr. Wellington. I know you well.
Chicks with Dig coming up for that one, no?
No, we already talked about it on the last one. Probably look to come back in early August after the after Serrano fights again and kind of see what's shaking from there. You know, do it like do it like quarterly, Steve. That's the goal of Chicks with Dig. Do that quarterly, like you know, the amount of time you want to spend with your girlfriends and stuff. But quarterly.
Yeah, absolutely. Quarterly is a bit of a stretch, but we get the point anyway. Matty wants to be crushed between the thighs of Franchon Cruz-Dezurn. Maybe he'll have his chance when she fights Savannah Marshall next weekend. They are some thighs, let me tell you, everybody. Let's start, though, last night in Madison Square Garden Theatre.
Powerful legs, eh?
In New York. She's got powerful legs. Has she not got powerful legs, though? Tell you what, Edgar Berlanga used to have a powerful fists, Andy. He went in against Jason Quigley. The knockout streak is over. We had Prograis last week, which we'll touch upon. We had Berlanga this week. We had Kovnacki as well, as we said on the thumbnail. How's Dead Zone working out? Too fast, too ferocious. $1 billion check.
Bringing that heavy artillery, mate.
How's it going, Andy?
Though.
Give us an assessment.
It's not looking good. The last couple of weeks, 2 big signings for Eddie, and that no delivered. I thought Prograis, which we'll get to, was probably looking to put on a bigger performance. Same with Berlanga, but that's about 3 or 4 bad performances by Berlanga now on the spin. He's going to gas out at some point. I'd imagine, like say, if he's trading hooks like he was there last night, with like a Charlo, for example, he's going to go to sleep. We saw him buzzed a wee bit. I wouldn't even say he's at B level. I mean, I don't rate Lemieux, but I would say Lemieux is at a better level, or was at a better level than what he is. He seems to be lacking something. He's got the power, at least, as I say, but it's I don't know if he gets lost or just runs out of ideas during fights. You know, he looks like he can end up getting outboxed. I don't think he's got the most strongest chin. He leaves him side well open. I think a far better rounded fighter would definitely have their way with him. You can't be talking about putting him in the likes of, well, obviously Canelo jumped ship. That's by the by. But if you're talking names like Benavidez, Morel, you want chucking Andrade in there as well, mate. He's got nothing for those guys. And I think Bob and Top Rank pretty much got it right with him when they let him go. I think they maybe saw the writing on the wall when it would be fair. So maybe a John Ryder next, possibly. Or the Munguia fight, but again, you've got Eddie and Oscar coming out there having go see each other. So what's the chances of that fight getting made? You just don't know. So it's there's not really much to say. They're just that he was gritty. So was Quigley. You know, to be fair, he showed at times and that some good body work, some good combinations, done some decent work off the ropes and that, but ultimately just you know what I'm saying, just he got dropped obviously the number of times and that as well. It's not going to help you, but some of the scorecards and that was at 116, 109 showed you if it was just outside those knockdowns, it might be a bit more tighter on the cards, but there's nothing there to suggest that for me at least that Berlanga's going to have much success at world title level. I think he's on borrowed time as it is at present. Munguia would probably be a more entertaining fight, but I still don't think he comes out of that fight unscathed. I think he takes a bit of punishment, probably gets dropped. We see what Munguia's got in that as well in terms of lacking defence and that, but he has got the will and he has got the engine in that as well. And I think Berlanga can also look like he can gas on the stretch, so I would probably put Munguia favourite in that potential fight. So
I don't know why you'd say that. I mean, I agree, Munguia favorite, but I mean, both of these guys were scoring knockdowns in the 12th round of their last fight, so I just don't think there's proof in the pudding of your engine comment there.
Do you want to go back in on him, Amanda?
You go, mate.
No. Sorry, I'm trying to eat chips but yeah, I just
you didn't, Matt.
These guys, I mean, if there's anything about the fight between these guys that's great, they both throw punches, they both have some bang, they are questionable at their defense, and they can end up getting knockdowns in the 12th round. I just completely disagreed with you on that one. I mean, we just saw the guy, score big in the 12th round. Got a good enough motor. He's just shitting a lot of other ways.
Yeah, but you need to remember as well, at least Munguia has got that experience, title fights. He has, been active as such, and then he's been up in weight a few times. Derevchenko isn't an easy fight for anybody. And you got to say that Derevchenko is far superior to anything that Berlanga's faced at this point. And Munguia's, you say, okay, he's come on strong there in the latter half of that fight, but I just don't think Berlanga's got anything for Munguia that Munguia's already hasn't dealt with through his pro career, and he's got good experience at this point.
How does Berlanga, Andy, get on with Derevchenko if he fights him?
I think Derevchenko has his way with him, mate, to be fair. Maybe a couple of fights back, definitely. Obviously, you're thinking that the guy's went through 3 hard fights through his career, and that's maybe taking a wee bit out of him, but I think he's still got enough about him. I mean, you see those combinations that he can throw off. I can certainly offset what Berlanga tries to do anyway. I don't think he does anything special. He just tries to kind of set up the power shots. If he gets you on the ropes, he can maybe try and tee off you. But Derevchenko, whenever he backs up, always lets his hands go. I think he would definitely expose Berlanga's lack of defence. I think he's just an accident waiting to happen.
Shout out to Ricky Graville. He's not an accident waiting to happen. MTK Enforcer has thrown in $4.99 on the super chats.
Didn't he used to do $4.49, Steve?
I'm not sure, to be honest. He's maybe raised it up by 50p. The cost of living's going up, and we weren't here last week, so he's showing us that we're loved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stay with the missus in the picture. Fair play to him.
Yeah.
he's loving life. He's all Richard there.
It's a miracle, absolutely. And I mean, I appreciate that he understands that inflation affects those of us at the asylum too. That's very nice, Ricky.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ricky. Your $5 is appreciated. One for you, Matty. Berlanga, 16-0, 16 knockouts. The gimmick was getting those first round KOs. We all wondered what was going to happen whenever he didn't knock somebody out in the first round. Quite literally, what would happen when he got into the second round. Since that fight in 2021, when he fought Demond Nicholson, he went to the 8th round. I think he knocked him down a few times along the way. Then Caceres went the distance. Steve Rolls went the distance. Roma Alexis Angulo went the distance. And now he went 12 rounds for the first time against Jason Quigley. 16-0 with 16 KOs. The last 5 fights, all step-ups of various quality and degree, have all gone the distance. We wondered what would happen to Berlanga after the knockout streak in the first round ended. What have you seen since that ended? Are you impressed or not?
You know, he's a tough one, Steve, and I think something to keep in mind with this is that he's probably better than we give him credit for, but the reason we give him so much shit is the fault of the promotions, actually primarily Top Rank, had him in the first place, for how much they hyped him up initially, right? And once that's done and over with, you have some level of expectation. So whereas I don't think he's, this fantastic, incredible knockout machine like people like he was trying to be pushed upon us originally. But I do think he's an all right, kind of a C+, B- area guy. And I think Munguia's, good enough to beat him. But I mean, Berlanga, if there's anything that I'd say has changed with him from the crazy knockout guy to what he is now, is that he's just more jab happy. Instead of throwing lead backhands, he's just, he jabs here, he jabs there. And it's not a great jab. It's a decent jab, but he's not throwing as many right hands as he used to by any degree. I think getting hurt, staggered, and dropped in those recent few fights has definitely played a role on that. And yeah, I would have to favor Munguia going down the stretch in that one too. Just I think Jaime, also, I think he's probably draining himself to get to 160 at this point in time. So you'd have to think he might look particularly solid at 168. But that's, that Derevyanchenko close win, you could score that either way. Really, it was a close fight, but Derevyanchenko is a good fighter. The close with Adames that he had was really tight as well. The guy's not a joke of a fighter whatsoever. He's a hell of a decent task there. So but I'll have to go with Munguia over Berlanga, but with a little bit of hesitancy, because I think Berlanga's all right. He's when they set the bar that high, he wasn't going to be able to
see the problem, right? I kind of got the impression about the fifth round last night when I'm watching Berlanga. I think the ceiling's been reached by him. Since the KO stopped, you have not seen a single improvement. I don't think. He didn't
fight anybody. He didn't fight anybody, Andy.
True, but then again, I wouldn't say Quigley's a step up in class. I wouldn't say like that guy Caceres was a step up in class. These are guys that you should be fighting at the developmental stage. He's talking big. He's talking title fights. You've got Eddie Hearn in the corner and that. Eddie's no one to waste his time with him trying to build him up against a guy like Quigley, for example. In all due respect, he's wanting title fights. He's wanting to try and breach into that Puerto Rican heritage and that type of thing. So the management, that's the Munguia fights trying to get made, Mexico Puerto Rican rivalry. But I've just not seen anything, a single improvement for the KO streak ended. To be fair, apart from the power, which Matt Butters is saying there in the chat, there in his opinion, the power isn't all that real. Which will probably be true actually if you're going to go up in levels, especially at the elite level. I wouldn't even give him a chance against old man Golovkin right now. Would not give him a chance.
No, I think regarding Matt Butter's comments there, Andy, about the power is not real, I think it's maybe somewhere in between, which also touches upon what Matty said as well. He's sort of caught between two stools. Top Rank clearly saw the first round KO streak coming along. They probably knew his boxing ability and carried that on for as long as they possibly could. And as soon as he stepped up, he dropped him on Nicholson about 3 or 4 times. He dropped Quigley last night 4 times. I'm not saying these are elite guys, but I think he can definitely punch. But early on, he had the intimidation factor. He was going for people. And now he knows he has to do the distance. He's tried to show people he can box, Andy. And I'm not really sure he can box that well. He's turned from this exciting first round, one-dimensional guy, or how long can this KO streak go on for, to quite a boring fighter, actually.
It is, aye. That's saying he kind of like match back the levels now. At least Lemieux, when he was coming through, he was hyped up. He had the crowd behind him, type of thing, and that as well. When he stepped up in class, he got found out. It's going to be the exact same here. And I just don't think it will change, to be fair. I don't even think a change of trainers will do at this point. He's up in age, he must be at least the mid to late 20s at this point. I just don't know how much he can improve at this point. He does try to box from time to time, but then he kind of, like, as I say, he looks lost. And it just looks like a guy, if he's caught between two styles, then it's coming across as a guy who's basically peaked or hit his limit as a fighter. And all he can really do is basically throw those wide shots that he does with the some dig behind it. I'm not saying that he can't dig as such, but I just don't think it's legit one hitter quarter power. I just think, he's got nothing really for Munguia, who he eats shots. And again, we can say that it's only going to take, so many of those. But at this point, I think he can still eat them. I think Munguia absolutely swarms and stops him.
Rob, a quick shout out to Jason Quigley. His nickname's the Animal, which is one of the most it's not an apt nickname for Quigley, I don't think. I saw him on the way up as an amateur. Very high hopes for him. World silver medalist, European gold medalist. I remember at the time in boxing at the seniors, everyone said how talented he was. The amateur game, pro game, two very different things. He is a talented fighter. I think he took some really solid shots from Berlanga. With the left hook, but as I think you posited before, if he had a bit of a beard later on, it could have been interesting on our cards. At least the scorecards didn't seem to think so. Anyway, Quigley showed, I think, a bit of redemption. The toughness he showed, the boxing ability, kind of gave him like a bit of a swan song performance for what his ability deserved. Because the Andrade fight really wasn't a clear exemplification of what he can bring to the table. But overall, his pro career hasn't really gone the way he would have expected.
Well, he's the last of the. Well, he's one of the three amigos that I had high hopes for from the Irish amateurs turning over, Mick Conlon, Joe Ward, and him. He turned over because he felt like he peaked at amateur and he didn't want to hang around and wait for the Olympics. He was on good money on the high performance team, but he said he had a family to feed, and he went to the States kind of to try and kind of make his own way rather than be kind of a sought after prospect with a big promotion. I think he was a top rank early, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then
Golden Boy, wasn't it? It was Golden Boy, wasn't it? Yeah, sorry.
Was it a bad injury in his pro fight or something?
Not sure.
Joe
there was
Ward,
one.
That was
Joe
Ward
Ward,
got injured
sorry.
earlier.
Ward, yeah.
Quigley signed, I think, off the bat with Golden Boy, Rob.
Yeah, and then it was kind of all of a sudden that was over, and then he was back here, and then there's a couple of changes of trainers. He ended up with Andy. I thought Andy had a good game plan for him last night. He boxed the game plan, but it's just that bit of difference. The likes of Terriano Johnson, Andrade stopping him. He's just got a ceiling, hasn't he, Jason Quigley? I don't think he's 168 pounder any day of the week, by the way, but he hasn't got the pop, like you said, Animal. Like he hasn't got the pop. He hasn't seemed to be able to hold the power as he's gone up the slight levels. And there was a couple of fights that preceded the Johnson one as well, where he looked like he gassed a little bit and lost his way a little bit. So I don't know, Quigley, I felt there's massive self-doubt with him. Maybe it comes from the kind of not really having enough to keep lads off him or whatever that way. Like, brilliant technical boxer, does everything right, but just kind of can't hold the shots at the higher level. And like, if he had been able to stay on his feet, even two of those times last night, they were kind of odd knockdowns as well, like where he's kind of losing balance and whatever and falling backwards. And if he had been able to hold those shots a little bit better, he might have had a justified shout at getting the nod, because he was fucking making Berlanga look terrible. Berlanga is just has a kind of a wading style. He looks like he's slow coming in. He's the best Puerto Rican 168 pounder since Gabe Rosado, in fairness to him. So I don't know what's next for Quigley. I think he might kind of keep going at gatekeeper status and maybe have a Gabe Rosado kind of redemption moment down the line, because he has got flashes of really good stuff, but I just don't think he has what it takes to crack it at obviously world level. Berlanga, I think it's a rough looking landscape for him. I don't want to spend too much time talking about fucking DAZN. It's shocking. Like, take Canelo out of the mix, AJ on a rebuild. What have they got there? Like, a bunch of scraps. You think Boxer have a bunch of scraps? Well, kind of Boxer have the scraps of what Matchroom used to be, and Matchroom now have the scraps of what fucking PBC and Top Rank and Golden Boy are throwing away, like propping up their yearly subscription. He's not exciting.
The island of misfit toys.
Yeah, he's not exciting. He's not on the right side of the street for the 168 division. And even if he was, I think he'd fucking, like Andy said, I think he'd struggle with any of the top guys there. 68, it's a bit of a graveyard for him. So he seems to have a bit of self-doubt as well. He was fucking pensive, edgy and that in the ring. Doesn't really have to have that kind of old man pro seasoning that some of the better younger fighters have. He looks very much like he's finding his way, and I think it's only a matter of time before he gets his head flied, isn't it? Like, so we'll see. Like, but yeah, a decent enough fight, but predictable outcome, I think.
I think as well, Rob, just a quick word on Berlanga. You can see why Eddie signed him. I mean, we can all see his limitations, but he is a bit of a nuisance. He's changed trainers in the past. He talks a lot of shit. He does bring a big Puerto Rican following with him as well. There's a nastiness about him. He's world ranked. Even though he's going to get beaten, if you can manage him right, Rob, and promote him right, as Eddie will no doubt do, you can make a bit of money off him, I think. You can see why you signed him.
Yeah, but does he do the Puerto Rican badass kind of routine well enough to cross over to get asses in seats? I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot I just think his style is basically going to be his main limitation. Like, he can like, he's not going to go AB levels of trash talk where he's like clickbait or whatever, is he? Like, he's just capable operator who's semi-interesting, I guess. I'm not really selling him, am I? Like, I don't renewing me his own subscription off that one.
His own promo there. Matt Butter said the problem is without the boxing base, you can't get the stoppages at the higher level. He might be physically a puncher, but not able to deliver on the opposition. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think he is a puncher. I think he's physically strong. And I think if he gets into range, he will absolutely do some damage. But as you say, Matt, if it's getting into range against the better guys with a jab and a bit of movement, he's going to struggle to be able to get into position to land that power flush. And I agree with you. I think that is the problem with him. As for the undercard, from what I saw on DAZN, Matty, you might have seen a little bit more than me, or maybe less than me. Who knows? Decent little opening scrap between Yanquiel Rivera. I think he was a Olympian for, is he a Dominican, a Puerto Rican Olympian, sorry, as well. Went in against Christian Robles, both unbeaten. Decent little scrap there. Reshat Mate getting a 9th round knockout win over Dakota Linga, and Adam Kovnacki, really fun fight against Joe Cusimano. But if you're getting knocked out in the 8th round and having your head rocked about, the Polish punch bag, as I'm going to call him, he's like Warsaw's answer to Sam Eggington. Exciting fights, but this guy's going to end up in a home if he's not careful. I'm not even joking. He took some shots against a capable Cusimano. Last time I saw him, he was getting banged out by Daniel Dubois. He showed a good jab. He showed a good athleticism, decent footwork, a good engine as well. And he absolutely beat the shit out of Kovnacki towards the end. Kovnacki's just got to hang him up. No ifs, no buts matter.
Yeah, and I think he had reservations about continuing if he didn't look good, even if he won last night. So that should probably seal the deal. But as we know with fighters, they just tend to not end up heading out when they should. So we'll probably see him again, sadly. But Cusimano putting on a good performance there. And what was a really entertaining fight, which, the first round knockdown that Cusimano scored was a really nice shot, and I think everybody was kind of shocked that it went as long as it did, because Konoski was just absolutely Queer Street after that one. He was in bad shape, barely able to defend himself, but the time between rounds seemed to help him. He was able to weather the storm early in the second, and he landed a few really good shots through the fight that hurt Cusimano too. They were both doing some decent work to the body. It was really just a good old-fashioned heavyweight slugfest. Not a whole lot of talent in there, but there was a lot of heart, a lot of will, some good chins in there. They absorbed, both of them absorbed incredible shots off him. Obviously, Konoski succumbing to him at the end of the day. Cusimano might be able to move on into an AJ payday off of this, so good on him. It's hard to learn a lot from a fighter when he gets taken out in a round. Everybody can come out a little bit dry or whatever, and it could have been the case with Dubois. But he has a couple of questionable defeats in his past where you kind of would have thought that Konoski should probably run over this one, but he wasn't able to. So that's 4 straight defeats for Konoski, 2 to Elenius, 1 to Demirzin, and now 1 to Cusimano. So he's just kind of slowly working his way down. As you said, he should probably retire here. Cusimano can continue, but honestly, this was a very entertaining heavyweight fight. I wouldn't say fight of the year, anything like that, but it's definitely one of them honorable mention things. It did not fail to entertain whatsoever. So good on him for at least putting on a show for the fans. It was entertaining.
Yeah, it was an entertaining scrap between 2 big lumps. Just going back 1 week, Andy, back onto DAZN, onto the headliner. Not so entertaining. I thought it was okay. Regis Prograis against Danilito Zorillo. We've seen Zorillo before. He's quite awkward. He's quite tall. He has different styles. I think he was getting the right hand in very well. Prograis probably taking more risks, making mistakes and getting caught with shots, but that was no disrespect to Zorillo. We saw against Arnold Barboza in the past. He can definitely land a shot and he can definitely punch a little bit. Wasn't the most entertaining of events to watch, but I did go back and watch it during the week. What did you make of Prograis? Do you think he was just trying too hard? Do you think Zorillo or Zoralito, whatever the hell you call him, was a little bit better than we thought? What was your overriding thoughts on that fight?
It was just poor, mate, to be fair. I got kind of bored of it, to be fair. Kind of like he's losing interest, but just thought his Prograis timing and his range was a bit off. It was, he seemed to be kind of like doing a lot of feinting, trying to draw stuff that wasn't coming really. The jab in air most of the night. He couldn't really cut the ring off too well. Plus, I thought, I don't know what you guys think. Would you agree that was maybe a knockdown in the first round that should have been counted against him?
Definitely, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So again, fans, I thought the fans are put to sleep, and I wasn't too far behind them, to be fair, mate. And that's me being kind. I actually kind of like can't add too much more because I've kind of like totally forgot about the fight. Other than the fact is it was, as I say, his first 5 rounds, I was really starting to lose interest after that. Poor performance. Maybe it was. I mean, we were expecting him to do better because I'd seen that Zarello as well. He was kind of awkward style and that, and I would thought he would maybe have come and had a wee bit more of a go. Don't know about the scorecards at the end of the day and that as well. I mean, they're just way out of whack actually. The 3 of them actually as well. So yeah, it could be just one of those situations that Prograis maybe just kind of like, took his eye off the ball. Maybe he's looking at bigger fights or whatever. But I just think we're moving across and that finally get himself a biggish promoter, and there was a chance to shine. Didn't really kind of step it up, shall we say? So it was just a poor performance.
MB says, I thought Zarria won the fight. I'm not really sure. I suppose, Rob, do we just chalk this one down to experience and just say he got the win, he's got the title, he's number 1 in BoxRec now. Not really sure what they're going to do with him next, but just kind of move on and hope he doesn't sign with anybody else before his next fight?
Who are we talking about now?
Regis Prograis.
Oh, Prograis, yeah. Eddie having a bit of a mare, like, isn't he? Went to his hometown, said there was going to be like 6,000 there. They were like fucking, I think, giving away comps all week. Not that I give a flying fuck about any of that. Like, I just want to see good fights. I couldn't care less what network they're on. Like, Prograis, highly rate him, but struggle. Like, maybe he's struggling with the. He's not a star, isn't he? That's Prograis' kind of downfall. Like, he's not a star. He's one of the best fighters in the division, but he doesn't put asses in seats. And he's not a fighter that people particularly want to run to, although maybe he'll have a couple of guys rubbing their hands after that. Still probably one of the best 140-pounders in the world, but a long way to go after that performance to say that he'd have an easy time with like Tiafimo. I don't know about him versus Tank. I don't think that's even ever going to happen. So I don't really know what way that 140 division is going to shake up, but I don't see him leading the way somehow and having the spotlight on him after that. And it's just like, who's he going to fucking fight? Like, who's he going to get him to fight? Like,
Haney's the name that they keep bringing up.
Yeah, but like Eddie signed him to with on the promise like that he's going to fight Haney, but Haney seem to have not really they want to do with him. Look like they're going with Top Rank, don't they, for the next 3 fights? So that's going to be him frozen out again. Like, so I don't know, like how do you make a cross promotional fight or something for him? I don't know. But he's a very good fighter, but he looked like he had an off night that night. I suppose that's the best way to sum it up. Like.
Yeah, I think Matty, looking at the options, they talk about Haney, but obviously, I don't know, I think he'd be looking at other things. Top Rank aren't going to throw him over the street. I wouldn't have thought they'll be wanting to make that on that platform. And then why is he signed with Eddie in that point? Number 1 contender is Sandor Martin, who's a very capable fighter, very difficult to look good against, 2 southpaws as well. Because you imagine him and Prograis, that'd be a difficult watch. Barboza's with Top Rank. Josh Taylor's just lost. He's also with Top Rank. Gary Antoine Russell's with the PBC. Ramirez is with Top Rank. There just doesn't. I don't see a lot of options. Richardson Hitchens, he's ranked highly with the IBF. But not
I
with the
imagine
WBC.
they'll get the Pero fight off next. Would be my guess, since that was the plan originally, and Pero got injured.
Oh, right, okay. Has Paro dropped out the ratings in the meantime? Because I'm looking up and trying to find him here. I'm desperately trying to find Paro. Where is he?
I thought he was an interim titleist or something like that, so it might be listed differently as far as that.
Fair enough. What about Prograis' performance? Was it to do with Zarria being a little bit more awkward and Prograis being at home? Possibly, he's not a draw, is he? I mean, he's not.
That is not Danilito Zarria's style. That is not the way he fights. Seen him against Barboza, seen him in a few other ones.
Usually comes forward, doesn't he?
Yep, comes forward, throws, decent puncher. And
crouched a bit in that as well, didn't he do it?
Yeah, and he just used really rudimentary footwork. I'd say he probably has good foot speed in general, just to keep on the outside and keep the work rate down. Steve, they combined for 84 landed punches in this fight, 42 apiece, breaking the record for the least amount of shots landed in a 12-round championship fight, tracked by CompuBox, that was formerly held by Casemiro and Rigondo. So they've got that going for him now, which is nice. It was just absolutely pathetic. And yeah, that knockdown could have been called in the first, but he kind of bum rushed it a little bit and kind of harmed his own claim for that knockdown. The one that Prograis claimed was clean. It was just really disappointing, though. Prograis just insisted on sticking behind that jab as Rio was moving to Prograis' lead hand. I don't know why he didn't throw more straight, hard lead lefts. He usually has a pretty good boxing IQ. I think it just wasn't what he trained for, and he could not make the adjustments. And as much as people might say, yeah, I think Zorrilla won that fight. If you're dead even with the champion, you got one knockdown against you. At the end of the day, I'm not going to go to bat for you if all you could produce is 42 landed punches, even if there is a claim that you might have. There's not enough in there for me to give a shit. If you didn't give a shit enough to try, I don't give a shit enough to make a claim that you won the fight.
Well said, Matty. Matt Butter saying Prograis expected a shootout. I think he did as well. Didn't realise that the CompuBox numbers were as low as Matty explained to us there, making Jan Barthélemy look like Johnny Tapia. With that kind of output, he's gonna have to let the hands go a bit more. But maybe it was a Styles make fight situation. I'll be interested to see what Eddie does with him next. Maybe if Eddie himself even knows. Who knows? Over to Minneapolis, Matty. We'll stick with you on this one on Showtime. Carlos Adames, 22-1, going in with a 9th round stoppage over Julian J. Rock Williams. The bread man wasn't happy about the stoppage at the end. He was raging. Adames had his way with Williams in the 4th round, really put some hurt on him. Williams came back and had some moments, actually. He fought at distance. I thought he would have been better off on the chest, letting the hooks go, a bit of a safer distance for him. In the 9th round, he was definitely hurt. I think we can all agree about that. But Breadman wasn't happy about the stoppage. It's always a bad look for the referee, I think, when the fighter who gets stopped throws a punch as or after he's getting stopped, So maybe there's a bit of, we can agree with the Breadman on this one, perhaps?
Well, and I think the way he went off and he went specific about, and he said, this is how it always happens. It always goes to the side, to the A side, et cetera, et cetera. And he called out boxing as it has been really suffering from a lot of this bullshit lately. And robbing us of some good fights. Adames is not necessarily a good fighter in the championship rounds, throwing all those punches. J-Rock could have gotten out of that round. He might have been able to do some damage to what might have been a very diminished Adames in those later rounds, but I mean, we'll never find out. J-Rock not committing to ever fighting again, and echoing kind of what Breadman's opinion was on that. It just hard to get a fair shake. And and the judges' scorecards were off too, Steve. Do you know that one of the judges had it a shutout for Carlos Adames?
80-72. Yeah, very inexperienced judge. I thought that was a disgrace.
Yeah, it's really a struggle, and I feel for J-Rock. He's a good fighter. People didn't give him much of a chance going in there, and I thought that he held his own. I thought that it was somewhere, scoring through the 8th. I thought it was somewhere from an even fight up to maybe you could get to maybe 6 rounds to 2 for Adames, but that would have been a little bit of a stretch. Even I thought it was reasonably close. And it's just a shame that it ruined what was a really entertaining fight, Steve. I was enjoying the hell out of it. They were both landing good shots. It was one of the better fights in recent memory when it came to exchanges of body punches and the guys really leaning in and digging those shots. I was thoroughly entertained by the fight and just disappointed by the ref. And then you hear what the scorecards were at the end. I'm also disappointed in the judges. It just seems to keep going like this. It kind of is what it is. At the end of the day, I guess we choose to watch it and we choose to take part in this fucking charade. But still nonetheless entertaining. Feel bad for J-Rock, but Adames is a good fighter. Can't hold it against him that the ref stepped in like that. He had that loss to Teixeira, and he's learned how to step on the gas since then. He's become a better body puncher, throwing good looks from both stances. And I'm excited to see what fights he might be in here coming up, because he definitely is a high quality fighter, and there's some decent fights for him out there. So we'll see what's next for him, and we'll see what's next for J-Rock too. I think he proved that he still has something in the tank.
Yeah, I think Breadman's comments about he may never fight again, J-Rock, was a bit less committed. I think it was more hypothetical from Breadman, who's like, he might never fight again. He's 33, he's on the back end of his career. We can all agree this could be the last time he was in the ring, and this is what you've done to him. One feature I do like, Matty, from Showtime is that trainer tracks, far from the Sky Sports apologising every 5 seconds. Right at the end, they did the trainer tracks whenever the referee jumped in and finished the fight. They had a mic straight into the ring, and you heard Bob Santos picking up Adames and going, yeah, fuck you, talking all that fucking shit on Instagram. I thought that was quite a good catch.
Oh man, it was just straight fucked up, man. What I like that they're catching a lot of that stuff in between. The trainer tracks is really good, Steve. There's some nice wisdom in there and things of that nature. But my favorite trainer track, we didn't even need him in the corner. It was just Breadman following the ref around the ring saying, "You're a fucking asshole." That's great. I'm like, yeah, he is a fucking asshole. You fucking tell him.
Yeah, I suppose it just goes to show you never know what the referee's going to do. Even the experienced ones, like Mark Nelson's been around for a long time, very good referee in general, but I think he made the wrong decision. Although to be fair, Williams was hurt and he was being battered about the ring, but I felt he should have been allowed to carry on. There was a bit of a suspicious stoppage on the undercard. I say suspicious, a bit of a dubious stoppage between Arias and Lubin. We'll talk about that shortly. Matt Butters is he can't believe the scores here. He says shutout for Adames. Williams won at release for 3 or 4 rounds. Yes, one of the judges had it 80-72. The other two off the top of my head had it 78-74 and 77-74 in favour of Adames when the fight was stopped. Andy, I don't know how much you saw of this one, but just looking over the career of Julian Williams, I mentioned Bob Santos there, slating him at the end, talking shit on Instagram. He has always been a bit of a shit talker, Williams. I remember when he fought Jamal Charlo, both undefeated in 2016, both put their undefeated records on the line. He talked a lot of shit, and when Charlo knocked him out in the 5th round, he refused to go over and sort of speak to Williams. He said because he had talked so much shit in the build-up. He had a majority decision win over Nathaniel Gallimore, who's not the easiest guy to defeat. And then he had that win over Jarrett Hurd. Really good performance. Hurd was undefeated, the absolute monster. He'd beaten Tony Harrison, he'd beaten Erislandy Lara. Williams was really, really good that night. Got the game plan down to a T. Then he lost to Rosario. Looked terrible against Vladimir Hernandez. Now he's lost to Adames. He always gives his all, always gives a good account of himself. But I get a bit of a George Kambosos vibe. Was the Hurd win over his body of evidence of his career that one shining moment? And apart from that, he's always been a bit of a bridesmaid.
Yeah, I suppose it's a fair analogy, to be fair, mate. I mean, he had his moments during the fight, didn't he? It was at the 3rd round, I think it was. He had he
came back strong, Andy, from every big Adames round, I felt.
I know, and Adames was definitely rocked. And to be fair about Adames, I mean, he's solid, man. He's going to be a hard fight for anybody, but he is defensively, he has got holes. I think if J-Rock was maybe a wee bit more kind of towards maybe the hard fight, shall we say, in terms of like peak his powers, not been out the ring for for long periods, he might have another different night, maybe won that fight. But he was also, when he was in the pocket and that, he was taking a lot of body punishment in that as well. I think Adames was really working the body pretty well. Some of it probably, I wouldn't say, I was definitely borderline, definitely running about the waistband, some of those body shots, but it was telling the kind of back half of the fight that I did think that not so much Williams, but always obviously slowing down. I did think a wee bit of Adames is maybe slightly slowing down in that as well. But ultimately, the guy's a beast, and he got. To be fair, I think we can all moan about the stoppage. I just also believe that it was going to go one way, and it sounds bad for saying all this because obviously we shut on Jack Reese for that pathetic stoppage the other week there, and then obviously he had the Rolly fight. He was slightly punching back, shall we say, Williams, but it was a bit a weak, feeble jab. You could have maybe let it go in a round or so to see if he's going to get himself back into it, but he was, by that point, starting to take a bit of a beating. So yeah, look, I don't know. At the end of the day, he knows himself what was happening during the fight. He had his moments in the fight. I just don't think it was few and far between, to be fair. It was lacking a wee bit as well. So doesn't make it right. I still think he could have went on a wee bit longer, but I think the writing was definitely on the wall. I think Adames would definitely go to him in the next round or two, possibly, because the punishment was starting to add up. He had that bad swelling under the eye and that as well. Who knows what might have happened after we saw what happened on the undercard? What happens to swellings that sometimes can absolutely burst open? Jesus Christ, that was horrific. So yeah, look, Williams might get another shot off the back of it. But I think, to be fair, mate, it's a bit like Hurden that his peak's been and gone, and it's new journeyman status, I think, unfortunately for him. So I don't know if he wants to keep continuing in that regard. But he's always been a good fighter. But he just that moment in the sun, and now it's just, you say, what was it you said? The bridesmaid, basically. Always the bridesmaid, no the bride.
Yeah, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Just
Rob.
going
Yeah,
in
go
the
ahead.
past here, it's a shame that J-Rock never fought Tony Harrison. If you look at all that talent that PBC had at 154, that would have been a good fight. Would have been J-Rock and Tony Harrison.
That would have been a good fight, actually, Andy. I think I can just see Harrison first 8 or 9 rounds, not sweeping them, but definitely getting his nose in front. And then as his gas tank inevitably diminishes, Williams, to be fair to him, he's always been tough and had a decent gas tank, and you could see him coming on late in that fight. It would have been a good scrap.
It would have been a good scrap. I mean, yeah, it's probably one of the 54 fights that got away for us, because obviously there was a period that PBC were putting on all the those title fights. Charlo, Hard, guys of that ilk. It's just a shame. And the thing is, the build up to the fight would have been pretty epic in that as well, because Harrison was never shy of kind of letting the tongue slide a wee bit in that as well. So yeah, that would have been a good build up.
Suppose they both had their chances. Harrison beat Charlo, then he lost to Charlo. Williams beat Hurd, but then he lost to Rosario, who eventually fought Charlo. So if the two of them had kept on winning, they would have fought each other.
It would have happened at some point, I think, because Rosario, then he had the second loss, didn't he? I forget who against at this point.
One was always on the highway, the other was on the frontage road.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Yeah, Rosario showed himself to be a very decent puncher against Williams, and then I think
he went at the body, though.
He got stopped after Charlo by Erickson Lubin, I think it was.
That's the one. And then he got Erickson Lubin. He took an L against Fundora, who's also now been beat, and he's come back off that as well, looking pretty solid. The thing about Lubin, I think Lubin's always been a good fighter. I just think, again, another one who's might just kind of, a wee bit like Williams, if he can just get the right opportunity, maybe pick up a belt. But again, might be that other bridesmaid type comment possibly as well in terms of Lubin. But he has a good fight and he has got decent power about him.
Mm-hmm. Just on Lubin, Rob, he fought on the undercard against Arias. Arias is so hit and miss. I saw him getting outboxed by Luke Keeler in the Failer one year. I mean, that's the kind of levels he was at, and fought against Danny Jacobs, another bit of a shit talker. As for Lubin, Rob, it wasn't so long ago he was an 18-year-old prospect. The hammer, very well skilled, well schooled, big puncher, got annihilated by Charlo, but built his way back. No shame to the way he lost to Fundora, who absolutely rearranged his face. As Andy said, things in boxing can move very quickly. Look at Fundora now losing to Mendoza. Lubin's beaten Arias. He's back in the frame. He's a good boxer. He can punch. He's just a bit fundamentally flawed, maybe, for the top level Lubin.
Yeah, and it's mad the way the things change so quickly, because J-Rock, Jared Hurd, those guys, Lubin, were leading the way, taking over from the kind of fucking Lars and Austin Trouts and that way along the way. Like, so shit can just change. Like, I think the pandemic held up a lot of fighters' prospects. They were all obviously a lot of them were on big promises for big paydays. All that went away. Massive training costs and things like that. And, fellas can't stay sharp without activity. So I think that 2-year period kind of put the skids on a lot of kind of potential stars that we saw that kind of seemed to have kind of gone old overnight. You know what I mean? They kind of had a year building back to get to where they wanted to. And I think he kind of falls into that category. Like, so I don't know. It's always hard to assess the landscape properly with these guys, because they're all on different networks and everything. But I think Lubin kind of gives anybody a decent fight still. But yeah, probably not. He's not going to be like the face of boxing, put it that way.
No. A quick word on Adames Williams in the main event, Rob. Bit of a crossroads fight. Williams gave his all, but Adames, I don't think he's the best fighter in the world. He's the WBC interim champion, because Charlo has been like champion in retard, whatever it is, for about the last 2 years. Adames, he's going to be a good, solid fighter. Only the one loss, but too much for Williams at this stage of his career.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't mad on the fight, to be honest with you. I just didn't give a shit about it one way. That was just it. Like, it just wasn't fucking floating my boat whatsoever. Like, I'm firmly focused on Bud Crawford or Spence in 5 weeks. Right? I want fucking nobody to pop hot, nobody to get injured, no Earl Spence not to take any wheeled vehicles transport. Right? I just want that fight to happen, and I couldn't give a shit about these kind of
Bud not to be playing any street games, gambling or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like, stay away
No
from all that shit.
fucking no. Don't let Bud Crawford go to the mechanics, and don't let Errol Spence get in the car. Right? We just want this fucking fight to happen.
Yeah, Rob, you're gonna try to plan everything you can, and I bet they're thinking the same thing. And you know what's gonna happen? Errol Spence is gonna get run over by a rickshaw.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a horse anyway.
I'm with Rob on that, though. I don't want to go too deep on it because we'll have our say, but I'm really worried about Spence, like an eye injury or something. I just hope not, to God. He's been fragile over recent years. Don't forget, not just the injury, the car accident, but the Pacquiao fight as well. That fell through because of his eyes, and I don't know, man. Just stay safe. Get an Uber.
Oh, and Rob, I got this video. It's a shame you're not in the Nutters group, but Joe Kennedy shared it with us, and it was video of Terrence Crawford sparring Carlos Adames a few years ago, and just sitting in the pocket. Oh my God, Rob! Pushing back a fucking middleweight. That was some brutal shit in there. Good sparring too. I mean, Adames was getting his shots in as well. But I mean, Crawford, it just further proof this guy's on a different fucking planet, I think.
Well, we'll see on July the 29th. We'll talk about that as the fight reaches us.
Here I am saying that when Errol Spence has been the only one sent into orbit.
Well, we'll see. We'll see, Matty. Anyway, on to the undercard, the final one. Well-matched fight again, Andy. Fernando Martinez, Argentine fighter. I don't usually go down as far as the flyweights, but I like this guy. Couple of wins over Jerwin Ancayas, who also got a victory on the undercard. Caleb Truax losing a 10-rounder to 6-2-1 Burley Brooks. I think Truax's run is well and truly over. Anyway, I digress, Andy. Fernando Daniel Martinez with an 11th round TKO over Jade Bornea. Jade can't, clearly. 18-1 now with 12 KOs. Tell you what, the little Filipino was a decent enough fighter. He put his shots together well, good body shots. But then I think it was the 9th or the 10th, he got hit with a shot to the ear. His ear exploded, blood all over the Showtime camera. And from that point onwards, he was a hard little bastard. He tried. I think it was the 9th round. Got to the 11th, and the referee says, "Look, man, that ear, no, you're going to have to stop this."
It must have been painful, because I don't know if you've seen the video in the corner, like the after it happened. They're literally like inside the ear flapping. He's trying to put a Q-tip in there. I mean, a Q-tip. You need a tampon, mate, to sort that stuff out. Gee, it was huge. I tell you, the last time I seen an ear like that, I remember it happened to Kevin Mitchell when he fought John Murray, and he had to go and get it drained. And they kind of slice the ear, and they put a couple of drainage plugs in it, right? So that's the ear, the blood kind of drain naturally.
Vargas Stephen Smith, I was thinking of. Do you remember that?
Aye, remember that one. Aye, but I'm watching that last night, and I'm saying to myself, look at the size of that again. And then just literally, as I said it to myself, it went boom, and then Jesus Christ, and then the instant pain. And obviously, the referee's not giving a shit about it. He's like, "You want to continue? You want to continue?" The guy's like,
"What?
Yeah, what? Yeah, jeez." So I look, fair play to the guy. Like that Borneo was aggressive very early doors, but that Martinez, man, he's a decent boxing IQ. Again, another one who's maybe a bit slack in defence now, but he has shown he's got some good boxing IQ. Take a wee step back, give himself a wee bit of punching room. And one thing I was impressed with,
puncher, man.
But his feet. See his feet. See when he moves, he's always on balance to to throw punches back, or maybe a 3-punch combo if he's got to do it off the back foot. He's always in position to punch. Solid, stocky fighter. And his back looks like a landing deck, an aircraft carrier. Plus, he's got a bit of engine about him. He can dig a bit. Obviously, the left hook's a bit evil. He's picking off a couple of good wins in that now as well. So, and he's wanting unification fights next. So it's only a good thing. But definitely a hard fighter. And for instance, that Borneo and that, fair play to him in that as well. Took as much as what he could. It's just a shame in the end, as you say, the referee's like, dude, your ear's hanging off here. Lesser guys would have just basically quit on the spot. So fair play to him, man. That was lethal.
Well, what I like about Martinez too is the fact that when that ear got busted up and the ref asked him, "Can you continue?" He's like, "Hey, I'm fine." And then Martinez just came in and just started busting up on Borneo. Like he smelled, he literally saw blood and he was on it. He's got a great killer instinct about him. Just another one of these fantastic Argentine fighters who just kind of come out of nowhere. And you got to look at him probably as a top 5 fighter at 115 pounds. But honestly, what blows me away when I'm looking through some of these pound for pound rankings and the divisional rankings is if you put 115 and 112 pounds together, that is an unbelievable unbelievable stack of fucking talent right there. I mean, it is almost not right how many different fights can be made down there, and Martinez fits well in there with any of them. I can't say I would assuredly count him out against any particular fighter, and I think with his work rate and, as Andy said, his solid feet, he's always in position to punch. I think an older, not as fleet of foot Roman Gonzalez would potentially struggle with this guy. Estrada would be a hell of an interesting fight with him. There's just a lot of interesting fights that could be made. It's just a shame. The one place you got to give DAZN credit is that these lower weights, they seem to have the stack of the talent. This is one place where being PBC is a little bit of a liability for a guy trying to make a name.
Yeah, I think he makes a good point there, Andy. I don't know whether he's aligned to the PBC, but he's had his last 3 fights on there now. He's got the IBF title. IOKA, as we saw on Saturday night, has the WBA. Dropped the WBO, which was won by Nakatani against Maloney. He's going to be a handful for anyone, that Nakatani. And then Estrada on DAZN. You could see Martinez, if he's maybe not tied up to the PBC, going over and fighting the likes of IOKA and Nakatani, maybe a bit quicker than fighting Estrada.
I was going to just say, once Matty finished there, that's the fight that I want to see Martinez in next is Nakatani. That's got violence written all over it. I didn't see the IOKA fight after the carry on with Franco, and the weight, it clearly was an issue before he even flew over at Japan, so I sacked that off. I'm not surprised IOKA, I picked him to win by decision anyway. The reason why I want to see Nakatani, because I don't know what Ioka's want to do. I don't know if he's going to plan to move weight, maybe try and get the Inoue fight if he's successful. Sorry, Taukuma Inoue, sorry, at 118. Estrada and Rodriguez is signed to fight Sonny Edwards, so I think he still holds the belt at 115, but he's coming back down to 112 for the Edwards fight. So yeah, Nakatani would be absolutely fantastic. I'm just looking at Matty's right though. I mean, if you can go back to like the old 8 divisions and that, see like fell like 115 down to 108. I mean, it's just dripping with fucking talent, man. It's just dripping with it.
Well, check this out. So at 115, obviously Estrada is lineal, and then right behind him, the top 10 is Gonzalez, Aoki, Nakatani, Franco, who is going to be exiting, obviously, Martinez, Tanaka, Rungvisai, Rodriguez Jr., David Cuellar, and Maloney is obviously going to drop off. I think they'll be changing that up. But I mean, if you just look at their, obviously Martinez on up to Estrada, those 5 fighters. What a freaking lineup there. And then when you go down to flyweight, you're looking at the fighters there. Obvious champion is vacant there. Sonny Edwards at 1. I think that's going to be short-lived. Then you got
Alvarado kicking about at flyweight as well. He's another one who could be dangerous.
Julio Cesar Martinez, Delacayan, Rodriguez,
Jimenez. He's a decent enough fighter.
And this is a guy I haven't seen fight. I swear I've seen him. Angel Ayala Lardizabal. I swear I've seen him on something, but I can't. And they have him at 5, so I might have to go look at him.
Sandoval.
No, Lardizabal. Angel Ayala Lardizabal.
You saw him working in Burger King, didn't you, Matty?
That's always possible. David Jimenez is their 6th ranked fighter, and Jimenez is a fantastic little fighter. Right behind him is Sandoval. Those two have fought. Sandoval racked up, I think, another stoppage victory in the last couple weeks. Alvarado right behind him. And then the 2 behind him, Rosales and Akwe. Not too familiar with those guys.
That guy you mentioned, Matt, he's a Mexican. He's actually got a win over Christopher Rosales, Steve. Remember him to beat Paddy Barnes?
Oh, yes.
He beat him last year.
Interesting. And he's just kind of shoved in there. I don't know. Maybe he's a golden boy fighter.
23-year-old.
But I mean, you take those divisions and put them together. I mean, that's unbelievable. And there's not a single one of those fights that I wouldn't like to see. I mean, and at 112, going up all the way to Jimenez and Sandoval. Jimenez and Sandoval had a very close fight that could have gone either way. And then Jimenez had a very close fight with Delacayan, which could have gone either way. So you're talking very competitive all the way up to 7th, 8th ranking at 112 at the very least. It's a hell of a good couple of divisions there. Love watching it. And Rob has missed out by ignoring these little people. I just think he's had bad experiences with midgets. There's something that he's put off about. But it's
he dropped
okay.
a bag of midget gems when he was a toddler. It's effective.
I like them. I think they're a great bunch of lads. The midgets, so nothing against them.
Yeah.
We're Bolton, we're Barmy.
Far away,
I think Ioka boxed well against Franco. MB saying that Franco is retired now. Ioka did all the right things, just threw a few jabs. He threw a lot of jabs actually. Nice uppercuts, just got the distance down to a T. Rob, actually, while you're back with us, I was going to mention one thing. Actually, just quickly switching back to Lubin. Matt Butters was talking about the stoppage. He said, I think when you leave getting up at the count of 9 till 9, you're really chancing it with the ref. And Johnny says getting up at 9.5 is like soft quitting. I think that was stupid from Arias leaving it so late, but the referee's got to get to 10 for my liking. He definitely waved it off at 9.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's easy. It's kind of easy for fellas to say that when they're not the ones having to fucking get up. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking. Sometimes you can see fellas watching it, and it looks like a kind of a saved face or whatever. Boxing is very much that type of sport, isn't it? You don't get like it's not like UFC where fellas just tap on the shoulder and go, right, that's enough, I quit. Like where it's an accepted part of the sport. Quitting is not accepted in boxing, really, like by the fans or the fighters themselves or the coaches. So sometimes the fellas are selling wolf tickets and they're chancing it a little bit and they're waiting on the 9 so they can look like they want to get up. We've seen that time and time again, but like the ref has to make the assessment if he's fit enough to continue. Like whether he, if it's like a millisecond or a half a second or whatever on the 10 count, you might see common sense kind of prevailing. We've seen that before from referees. It's a 10 count, not a 10-second count. So I don't know. Like I don't know. I can't really say definitively if it's a soft quit or not. Like I think it's easier said than done when you get the shit better of you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
Malik Scott had a better argument than Arias, I think.
Oh, he was the king of Malik Scott, the slow count or the fall over, wasn't he? I suppose, but
no, I mean when he got up against Chisora, that knockdown against the ropes.
Oh yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
He was up definitely, and I think Arias had an argument that he was up too, but I think he cut it a little bit too close, man. He was as raw, it's you kind of hitting the snooze button in the boxing ring, except it's not 5 more minutes. It's like just give me one more second, ref. And didn't pan for him.
Yeah, and he hadn't done much to that point, I suppose. Matty suggests that he was even in the fight. I know it was only 5 rounds in, but he barely landed a meaningful shot.
No, it wasn't a tremendously competitive fight, and I don't think he has the steam on his shots to necessarily do to Lubin what Charlo or Fundora was able to do to him. So yeah, it was maybe just delaying the inevitable, but it would have been nice to see Lubin actually take him out, because I think Lubin's power is just a little bit overstated. I mean, because you got to think that when he dropped Fundora, I mean, he landed that left hand clean as fucking as he could, and it didn't finish the job. So.
Absolutely. Matt Butters says Ioka Franco was a great fight, very close, I thought, and every round was close, but Ioka was just doing that bit more to edge the rounds. I completely agree with that. Just before we go through the chat and see who's hanging around, Andy, I know you didn't see the Japanese card, but I want to give a shout out to Daigo Higa on the undercard. We've sort of followed his career before. He was absolutely dead at the weight when he got stopped by the aforementioned Christopher Rosales in 2018. Realised that flyweight wasn't for him, even though he had been a world champion down there. Moved up to bantamweight, didn't all go his own way. Just a couple of years ago, he lost to Ryosuke Nishida. I think he's flawed, and I think he will lose against the better guys, Andy. But his style is very exciting. He can be in some really exciting fights. He's a compact power puncher, throws hard to the body as well. I know his opponent on Saturday, this Sirichai Thien, who's one of these Thai fighters, wasn't the best, couldn't take it to the body at all. But I think stylistically, Higa has something to offer us still yet, Andy.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I think that Thai fighter, it goes under the name of Knockout CP Freshmart for any of you guys that follow the Asian scene, but his own box ring under his real name. But that guy's ranked, I think, top 4, top 5 of one of the bodies, so I'd imagine he got new debuts in the bantamweight WBA rankings. I can remember when he was obviously tipped as the next big thing. He was obviously one of the high prospects coming through, and obviously he's run into Christopher Rosales, badly weight drained, looked awful on the scales, and he's out the ring for 2 years, or almost 2 years. The Japanese board refused to let him fight at even at super flyweight. They told him he got with 2 weight divisions because obviously they monitored his weight, they checked his weight, they checked his diet and all that type of stuff, and it says that he had to go up 2 weight divisions. So imagine that. Imagine the British board coming out saying, like, for example, like a fighter, pick whatever fight you want. Can he make weight? He doesn't safely make middleweight, so you need up to light heavyweight, mate. Sorry. it's just wild. But yeah, he's steadily progressed. Obviously, he did have another L on when he came back. People were questioning not so much his mentality, whether he still had the hunger for it really. Against was it Rishuki Nishida? I think he lost a 12-round decision. He's come back. I kind of wrote him off after that, to be fair, but he's come back with a couple of two decent wins. Come back with a knockout there. I said I would be a bit surprised if he doesn't make the top 10, top 15 rankings by the end of next month. Which if he is, I would be expecting them maybe they might try and plan the IOKA fight sometime, probably for Christmas or New Year.
They could do. Hopefully, he's got plenty more to offer. One man who has plenty more to offer is Tim Zhu. We'll be talking about him very shortly. Let's have a look through the chat. First of all, you are listening to episode 528. Matty's here. He's about to say something. Andy's here. Rob's here as well. Go on, Matthew. You should be silenced no more.
What's his motherfucking name?
Tim Zhu, motherfucker. Tim Zhu.
He's enjoying himself, is Tim Zhu. So are the chat boys. Cedric Sniff's in there. Good to see him. Des is here as well. He's got no time for fighters who miss weight. Jim McDonald has got plenty of time for them.
Bosh.
Matt Butters. New Orleans, Moses is enjoying himself in there. He seems to be enjoying himself anyway. Sad Ken, he's never enjoying himself. Mark Stanton's dropping a few one-liners. MB is here as well. So is Michael Thompson. That's Mikey T from patreon.com/boxing asylum. Johnny Horsecock Nelson, just known as Johnny these days. He's dropped the rest of his pseudonym. M. Lithgow 1983, shout out to him. Just scrolling up, see if we can see any new names. Haven't seen Take Ames tonight. No doubt he's hanging around somewhere. If you want a shout out, you better throw your name in quickly. Nothing for something. From the old Boxing Coalition days, shout out to the Boxing Coalition. They're no longer going, but we're still here, episode 528. Right, let's go on to Tim Zhu then for last weekend and a first round knockout. Doesn't mess about, does he, Zhu? If you're in against someone like Carlos Ocampo, as we always say, they're overmatched. Get rid of them. He's been a slow starter in the past. He got knocked down by Terrell Gosha. This time he came firing out the blocks, destroyed Ocampo. He defeated Tony Harrison in his last fight. He's not hanging around. Jamal Charlo isn't able to fight. Jamel Charlo, whichever one it is, hasn't been able to fight him. So he's gone in against a top contender, former champion in Harrison, against Ocampo, blasted him out in a round. He got bitten by the dog, didn't hold him back whatsoever. I'm starting to like Tim Zhu, to be honest with you, Ander.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about the guy. I mean, I like his attitude. He likes to stay active. Not much else you can ask, really. It's not his fault that obviously Charlo's not fighting or whatever reason, so he's got to do what he's got to do. But to be fair, not much you can say about the fight other than that he's just took out the trash quickly, rapidly. I mean, the first right hand he landed, I think it really just totally changed the fight on its head. And then the only gripe I could probably have really is he's really kind of tried to step in there after that right hand landed and tried to kind of take the guy straight out. And a lot of the punches were missing. I think he just needs to refine that a little bit. I mean, obviously, if that's against Charlo and he is winging, I mean, he was winging a loads of wide shots and we're missing the target. If Charlo's able to time just one of those shots in between and catches him with a hook, we're going to find out how good that chin is. But everything else, to be fair, it's been great to watch. The right hand toward was it 2 minutes in, or just heading into the second minute of the first round, that is just dumped him on his arse, and then obviously just went in there and just finished the fight. A lot to like about it. It's just now really it's all about improving now if he's world level, really. I mean, he's proven that he's world level contender. It's now really if he can take the gold, and then if he can take the gold, it's all about defending it. But what I've got to say is the way Ocampo ran away for that first knockdown, and he kind of like pivots and turns, and the head is like chin's in the air, airing out. A fucking seagull could have come down and picked that chin right out of the air, man. Fuck me, and he gets caught with the left hook. Didn't know what happened, or right into the ropes, folded, absolutely dominated. So yeah, look, it's what you want. You didn't want to have him fighting like a 12-round war, taking prime years off him and getting cut and maybe getting injured again and potentially postpone the fight even longer. He's got it done quick. And things like that keep people interested, get them talking, think, oh, he's going to do it to Charlo. So Charlo's been out the ring for a while, he's got problems and all this, that next thing. So it adds a wee bit extra dimension of potential drama to the fight. Can Zhu now turn it up? It's going to be interesting to see. But I just want to see him refine the finishers a wee bit. Once he gets the fighter on the hook, just take your time, because as I say, at the elite level, he could get picked off easily. Just a personal wee gripe in that, but other than that, it's all looking good so far.
Yeah, I think it's a great fight, Matty, and it's just getting better with these wins that he's posting in between, actually. The fact Charlo got injured, strangely enough, and has given you this chance to have these two fights in between makes it even more mouthwatering. Des says you need to step up and travel now. I think he absolutely will, 100%. He went over before, as I mentioned, on Showtime and fought Gosha. Didn't get off to the best of starts, fought his way back into the fight. He's made his American debut. He's introduced himself to them. He's kept himself active and busy with a couple of back-to-back knockouts. He's openly said that he'll go to America. He knows Charlo's the undisputed champion and he has to do that. And he called him out on the mic afterwards. I want to fight you in October in America. I think he's happy to travel. I think he'll give him a good fight. I don't think he'll win, but I think it's a lot closer now given these two fights. And I think it's a cracker and I think he will go there and fight him, Matto.
I think he will win. I think this inactivity of Charlo's going to catch up with him. He's recovering from a hand injury. That's a big deal if you're a fighter. And Zoo is just gaining more and more confidence as this goes, and he's beating decent fighters. He truly is. I see him surging and confident, and I'm truly excited if they actually make this fight. We'll see what happens with that. Charlo is could get injured again, could think of another excuse, whatever. Because what I'd really like to see, regardless of who wins between Charlo and Zoo, is I'd like to see whoever wins between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, whether they do one or two fights, if someone takes both of them, move up and take them on. And I think if that person is Terrence Crawford, and I pose this question, I don't want to move everything from you, Steve, but I pose this question to the Nutters, is if Terrence Crawford could beat Errol Spence and move up to 154 and take out Charlo or Zoo and become the undisputed at 154 pounds too, would that make him on the list of greatest fighters of all time? Would he eclipse Mayweather's position? I think that's a really interesting conversation to
Jeff
have.
Mayweather?
Fuck you.
Uncle Roger.
Uncle Roger, exactly. Floyd Senior. It's an interesting question. We'll get back to it at some point. Rob, just sticking to the Sue Charlo situation.
I think about boxing.
I think Charlo's patience. I think he showed a lot in the Castano rematch. The jab, the right hand. He will catch you if he over-exuberates himself. I see it being one of those fights.
Exuberates himself, Steve. I like that one.
Yeah, there you go. Not to get too specific, but I see it one of those fights where Sue's a proper hard bastard. He's going to give Charlo a really tough fight. I just see Charlo maybe knocking him down a couple of times and catching him, and that maybe be the difference in the fight on the scorecards. Very narrow scorecards. But I tell you what, I think it narrows each time. I really do think Sue is a tough guy. He can punch. He's not going to go down easily, and he's going to give Charlo all he can handle for as long as it lasts.
Yeah, it's an intriguing fight because it's a big profile fight for Charlo as well. I think Charlo needs this fight as much as Tim Tszyu, you know that way?
Yeah.
Charlo has kind of, like, everyone knows he's a high-level operator. He's kind of talked, his persona is bigger than his resume, if that makes sense, even though he's an extremely talented guy. I think you're right. I think Charlo beats Tim Tszyu. I think it'll be check hook season in there, or uppercut season. I think Tszyu is good, he's skilled. He can punch. He goes for the gusto, and he smashed Ocampo to bits. And I like the way the finishing was relentless and ruthless as well. When he saw his opening, he absolutely took his fucking head off, and that's what you want. But I don't think he's going to be able to do anything next to near that to Charlo. I think he'll make him uncomfortable for a few rounds, and then when he finds his range, he'll start pinging the head off him. But it will be an interesting contest, and it's a big fight. It's a big interest fight. It's different clash of styles, different hemispheres, the fucking lineage of Tszyu. Is he going to, step out of the father's shadows and become his own man and world level fighter in his own right? And Charlo, if he wins, is there big money fights for him, and we actually see him fight some decent opposition down the kind of twilight stage of his career. So I don't know. Like, I think Charlo really impressed me a couple of times. Sorry, where it was.
What are you laughing at, Matty?
I'm sorry. I fucking thought I was on mute. The chat. I'm so sorry.
Carry on, Rob. Ignore the haters.
Stay out of the chat. It's a cesspool. I love these people.
You've given Rob a complex here.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck he was laughing at. I was like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck, Charlo's not that bad. Like, But yeah, no, I think Charlo has the edge on Zoo, but a really, really intriguing fight, and hopefully it'll be a fight that delivers, and maybe you get to see it again. But I like both. I mean, I fucking hate. I don't give a shit about fighters' personas these days. I don't even take them into account. But like, both the Charlos are annoying as fuck and emotional, but still they're both very good fighters too. Like so, but we need to see both of them in bigger profile fights going forward.
Absolutely, yes. Charlo does have the edge, but it is only an edge. What have we got coming up next week? Let's have a look, shall we? What's on the agenda? Go on then, Matty. We'll let you have first digs over at the Manchester Arena. Ben Shalom, he's struggling a bit over on Boxer, isn't he, with all out his pals there? Zach Chelly on the undercard, Natasha Jonas going in for a world title.
Didn't Chelly withdraw? Or did Heffron withdraw?
Yeah, there was the opponent withdraw, wasn't it? Yeah, he's fighting against Mark Jeffers now. Boris Crichton, he's doing plenty of work. He's back against Callum Simpson. Ben Whittaker as well. And in the main event, Savannah Marshall, last seen losing to the Goat, is going against Franchon Cruz Dezern, who lost to the Goat on her debut, no less. They were both debutants there. What's going to happen here, Matty? What do you foresee in your crystal ball between old Franchon and Savannah? I fancy Cruz Dezern.
What's going to happen, Matty, as well, not what you want to happen. So.
Feel free to unmute and quietly laugh at me in the background, Rob.
It was Adam Aziz fight that fell through.
I'm really looking forward to this fight, Steve. And it's when we're looking at this era of women's boxing and how important it's going to be just in the history of the sport. This is a really pivotal fight in the sport in some interesting ways here. I would definitely lean towards Savannah Marshall. I think that Cruz Dezern is definitely the naturally bigger fighter in there. But she's a good puncher, but not the kind of puncher that Marshall is. But if you go back and you watch her fight with Elin Cederos, I mean, she busted her the hell up. She's got a good right hand. She could develop the left a bit more. So we'll see what happens. I would just tend to think that the quality of Marshall is going to shine through on this one. And the person who stepped aside for this fight to happen is Shadeja Green. And if you want to talk about the person in the division who could really blow things up, it's this woman, because she can absolutely punch. The aforementioned Cederos, who went 10 really bloody rounds with Cruz Dezern, she took her out in 5 or 6 rounds recently. Shadeja Green is a wicked puncher. She's supposed to get the winner of this fight. I would prefer it to be Cruz Dezern and see that, because I think regardless of Savannah Marshall or Cruz Dezern winning this, that they're just a placeholder for Shadeja Green, who's going to take this belt, which opens up the opportunity for Clarissa Shields to go to 168 pounds and try for the undisputed championship there against Shadeja Green. And that is when you talk about what could be a really big fight in this era of women's boxing, it is going to be Clarissa Shields against Shadeja Green, which I God honestly could see the quote getting her first loss, because I know you guys don't watch a lot, but man, Green, this bitch can bang. She swings for the fucking fences.
Well, James G's getting involved in the women's boxing in the chat, Matty. He says, Cruz Dezern is fucking useless. You do better sticking the gloves on a leper.
Well, isn't he a nice gentleman?
But I agree with you on Shadeja Green. And I think that's what women's boxing needs, isn't it? I know Anne Wolf was a banger. You need a woman who's going to go out there and beat the shit out of people. And I don't know whether she's been fighting tin cans. You can maybe indulge me better, but she's 12-0, 11 KOs, I think.
Elle Brooke is a banger.
Powerful legs as well, apparently.
Down in the depths.
Yeah, and obviously, and I mean, to go with James's rude point, yes, all signs point to Marshall winning this fight. She is the much better fighter, but Franchon Cruz Dezern is just kind of street tough, for lack of better words, and there's not a lot of women like that in boxing. and you will see some things like I don't know if this happened during our break. I think it might have. Is you see, Ramla Ali come up against, the Somalian chick come up against a gal who could really punch a bit and just get fucking flattened.
She got iced, didn't she?
God damn, that was some good stuff there during the break there. And why I'm struggling for opponent's name right now, I don't know.
It was Miriam's. Was it Gutierrez or Gumares or something? I can't remember.
I think you might be right, but that was a fantastic knockout in women's boxing there, just to kind of retrace a little bit here from what we might have missed and what we didn't touch on. That was if you're looking at the women's knockout of the year at this point in time, I think you're going to have to go with this knockout of Ramla Ali, because she just got absolutely fucking demolished in this fight by, there we go, Yulisa Alejandra Guzman. That's what we were looking for, Steve.
There. I wasn't really close, was I, to be honest?
Yep, she got knocked down in the 5th round by a right hand. And from that point on was just getting backed up. And then there was just a wicked exchange of left hooks where Ali did not have the firepower, got demolished. And that's going to be your women's knockout of the year, barring something weird happening at this point in time. But back to the fight at hand. Again, sorry to go off on the side there. This is going to be a good fight. Let me make that much clear. If you're looking for something entertaining, this is going to be a good fight. A lot of these fights in the women's division, I know people are disappointed with, but when it's been at the upper echelons of the sport, the fights tend to deliver on an action, a competitiveness basis. This is going to be among them. So don't balk at watching it if you're just women's boxing. This is going to be a good fight, and one that I think you're going to be wishing it was 3-minute rounds.
Wish it was 3-minute rounds. Michael Thompson says Franchon Cruz DAZN. Speaking of DAZN, Andy, next Saturday evening, Sheffield Arena. It's only really the main event that's any of interest. I'm looking down the undercard here. James Beach, Hopi Price, Pat McCormick against Tony Dixon. I remember Tony Dixon getting knocked out by Paddy Gallagher a few years ago. That's shite, that undercard, to be honest. Main event's decent enough, though. Sam Maxwell going in for the British and Commonwealth title. A couple of fights ago, he was knocked out in Liverpool by Alejandro Meneses. He has got a win over Akeem Ennis Brown, though, and I think he had that late sort of comeback win against somebody a few years ago. Going in against Dalton Smith, Andy, 14-0, 10 knockouts. Last seen defeating Billy Aylington, as wins over Casey Benjamin, Samo Mason. It's decent domestic fare. Apart from the main event, not really that fussed. Do you see Smith being able to get Maxwell out of there, or is it a points banker for you, Andy?
Oh, Eddie bringing the heavy artillery with this card, mate. Yeah, I suppose it is all about the main event. I mean, Pat McCormick, he's just still in infancy, he's pro-career, isn't he? So he's not going to be anything great at the minute. See, he is up to 10 rounds, though, as well, so that's interesting. But yeah, I think it's a question mark. I think Smith got a wee bit of doing. I don't think he was great in his last fight. Again, you're only good as your last fight, but I think he might have enough of a bit of actually to beat Maxwell, do maybe a late stoppage, possibly. Obviously, we've seen Maxwell hurt. He had that great fight, or that great war. He had to turn the tables on the guy. He's got badly knocked out himself. He has shown he has got a bit of boxing IQ about him as well when he was boxing the world boxing as an amateur. But I think he's also got a wee bit of kind of fragility in that as well. I think Smith, as good as what he is, I still think he still needs to break through a little bit. So if he is going to go up in levels, that as well, I like to see him kind of do it a wee bit of class. And maybe do the late stoppage, but yeah, I'll stick with the late stoppage. I think, mate. Maxwell's generally good opposition as such, but I still think as well he has got that wee fragility about him as well. Actually, I think he would get stopped late.
The chat are loving this one. Chris Butler says Dalton Smith is really good. Very boring, though. M. Lithgow 1983 says Dalton Smith could put a glass eye to sleep. Dares Rob, more interestingly, says it's been suggested this last hour, not sure who suggested it, that Dillian White has accepted the AJ offer. White versus AJ 2, Rob, you getting on board?
That's interesting because Eddie was confirming or basically convinced, or Eddie's like that he was going to fight Wilder in December.
Fighting Wilder in December, but he's fighting like Dillian White in a warm up. I couldn't give a bollocks.
It's the old bait and switch. The old bait and switch for fucking Eddie, man.
Like Dillian White, he's off a knockout Tyson Fury, and a struggle win against Jermaine Franklin, and AJ's off 2 losses to fucking Usyk and a struggle win against Jermaine Franklin. It's not exactly fucking making you chomp at the bit or whatever. Wilder and AJ all up for because anything can happen. Exciting, 2 big fighters, big draws. This fucking rehash of 2 fucking I don't know. But like this, what number? Not that this matters to me or whatever, but how many pay-per-views have these 2 had between them? A massive amount. And Dillian White's holding out for the 10 million.
I'll tell you
Double
what,
figures, yeah.
Dillian White passed up world title fight after world title fight after world title eliminator, and by way of compensation, Eddie stuck him on pay-per-view. So I'm thinking round about.
Like, does it
Chisora fight possibly? The first
White's
Chisora
had
fight?
about 5 or 6, hasn't he?
Aye, but Chisora possibly.
2 Chisora ones, I think. He had 2 Povetkin ones pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He had
Parker, was
Tyson
it?
Fury, obviously. He had
Joseph Parker.
Allegedly Oscar Rivas was pay-per-view as well. So lots
Apparently
of
he
pay-per-view
failed the test as well.
Yeah. It's like anytime Dillian White, I like Dillian White, and you know, as we just highlighted, he's made a lot of money for a guy who didn't really have an amateur background. It was a kickboxer. He's played the IFL angle absolutely brilliantly when IFL were the kind of leaders in boxing YouTube media. He had a great relationship with Coogan, which kind of made him endearing to the boxing public. He was brilliant on Sky. He'd fucking get involved at the press conference. He want to fight and the fucking gloves are off and all that. Did his part for selling fights, absolutely. Went on with a load of fucking bullshit in the run up to the Fury fight, not want to be part of the press, all this shit. Like, and it turned out to be his performance on the night turned out to be an absolute nothing.
Feed these dogs steroids.
Feed these dogs. It's just I can't see any other, like even the gun shy version of AJ surely fucking blows his head off at some stage with an uppercut. Like I just don't see another way out. Like anytime Dillian White's been gone up the levels, I think Joe Parker floored him. I think Rivas floored him. Derek Chisora gave him fucking life and death. He struggled against Franklin. He's knocked out against Tyson Fury, Alexander Povetkin. I just don't see. I think even this version of AJ surely has time to plug fucking Dillian White. But if Dillian White was to somehow fucking knock out Anthony Joshua and put himself in the frame for the Wilder fight in Saudi, I'd be all for it. Like, but I think AJ will deal with him quite easily. Actually,
I could see this just being a 12-round shit fest.
Yeah, I think so. Shitty points fight. That's what I see too. Looking forward to it, Matty.
Yeah, like just as much as everyone else on the podcast.
On the zone, you're a subscriber. Go on, Under.
I'll get it for free because I'm in the US, though, and they know we won't pay pay-per-view for AJ.
Fucking Eddie's saying that he wants to get him a top 15 ranked fighter, right? I've just pulled up the rankings here. I don't see Dillian White ranked. Oh, there he is there, WBC number 6. Just looking through these rankings, there's not really much for AJ. I mean, apart from Wilder, obviously, if you take Wilder out the equation, who would you put? I see McMudov's fighting next week. The only one that you would probably want to pick out of that list here was possibly Frank Sanchez, Martin Piccoli, possibly. Because it's somebody fresh. Who wants to see Dillian White, Anthony
Sanchez,
Joshua
Piccoli are two sort of dangerous in respect of risk-reward. I think Eddie probably wanted to put him in with Kovnacki. He was probably hoping Kovnacki won last night, I bet, yeah.
He'll probably put him with Joe Parker, mate. If Joe Parker won it, he's coming off a first-round knockout. He looked dangerous before Cougs. Telling you, man, he's hungry. He's coming back. He's Tyson Fury's got him training as well. Tyson, you know what he's like? Oh, my God. He's still got Gazev. He's still ranked in the top 10, apparently. I don't know how that's possible.
Not him again.
And Jared Anderson's talking about retiring at, 27, 28? I've seen an interview during the week there. What the fuck's all that about? So, yeah, the options are not great. And if somehow Caballero still bring up the top 10 with IBF, that's just...
They better hope Dillian White does fucking accept the AJ fight, because they were talking that Big Baby Miller was lined up for a replacement. redemption for the Big Baby. I would actually like to see that fight before I'd like to see the fucking Dillian White fight, to be honest with you. I would like to see Big Baby Miller and AJ. Actually, really would.
I think the Kazakh or maybe the Uzbek, is it Kozabutsky? He's fighting next week as well. So
no, he was supposed to fight Anderson, wasn't he? And then he had visa issues, so Anderson's fighting Prince Charles Martin now.
Oh God!
No, hold on.
You've got Joe Joyce come off a KO.
I don't know how to phrase this exactly, but I'm kind of curious. if you take all 4 of the top 15, all 4 of the sanctioning bodies and their top 15 rankings for their heavyweights plus the champions, and you mix and match where they share names. But how deep does that list go? I mean, how many fighters are we talking between those 4 sanctioning bodies? Do they have their top 15 ranked fighters? I mean, there got to be at least probably
10.
40 names in total there.
Yeah, but if you want to take all those names, though, I think you would easily get a top 10. Think about this. You've got Ivan Daichko, right? The guy's fighting in Mexico these days. Now he's top 15 in WBA. Fabio Wardley, number 13 in the WBA. Fucking Fabio Wardley, right? Literally, you could go through that entire list, right, and you would be struggling to put a quality top 20, top 25. Dempsey McKean. David Adley still is just outside the top 10. But
Hrgovic has been the IBF mandatory for 3.5 years, Caliso said.
3.5 years. You got Efe Ajagba again, slightly exposed, right? I'm being kind there. The only other fighter you would want to pick out of there, potentially giving people a test, is Big Otto Wallin. But again, it's a bit like Frank Sanchez, as Steve says. Who needs him? It's a high risk, low reward fight.
Is Otto Wallin in the top 15 of all 4 sanctioning bodies?
WBC, I see so far.
Yes, no. Oh, yes. He's not the WBA, but all the other 3, yes.
He's 9, 8, and 12.
12.
With other 3, yeah. So he's nowhere near a title fight. He needs to be taking like a Hrgovic, or he's going to have to take the B-side money in that as well, and then fucking do the business, because he's getting no favours.
AJ, though, at the moment, they're going to put him in with the likes of White, aren't they? And like Chisora and all that type of shit. He's like a fringe. He's like, on the fringe now, isn't he? They're putting him in against names rather than, putting him against people like Zhang or Bacoli or all that, because they don't sell. They're difficult. They're potential banana skins. It's easier in it to put him in against the likes of Dillian White, who the public know, and even friggin' Delboy. I wouldn't be surprised, to friggin' Chisora.
Well, it'd be interesting to see what they would do actually in terms of ordering like eliminators, because you got Zhang now, who's the interim champion with WBO. You've got Dubois, I think, who's the interim champ with the WBA.
Yeah.
And you've got, you mentioned Hrgovic here as number 1 contender for the IBF for fucking God knows how long. I mean, how long is it going to be until those? Because that means Joshua's could potentially be waiting for a world title opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see these bodies come out and say, right, okay, we're going to order these fights. So Joshua fight Andy Ruiz, rematch. Third fight, sorry. Don't really want to see it, but I like to see Sanchez fight Joshua, because I see Sanchez number 3 with WBO.
Fair play to Zhang. Obviously. I like Big Zhang. He went in with Hrgovic in an eliminator. He lost. I thought he definitely won the fight. Hrgovic has been treading ice ever since. Zhang come over as the B-side and defeated Joyce, and now he's further on than Hrgovic. Hrgovic, shit, I wish someone would just knock him out and get rid of him. I'm a fan of Big Bang Zhang. He's my favourite heavyweight now. Anyway, sorry, I think that was a bit of a tangent there.
Sorry, but what they got planned for him? Is it a rematch with Joyce next? I mean, again, was mentioned at the time, Joyce, unless he does, he moves that head off centre and that, man, he's going to be eating those fucking shots, straight shots all night long again. I've just shown that you can only eat it for so long when you're against a power hitter. Yeah, it's just, obviously you got Fury. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, his shticks went fucking stale right off the bat. I was listening to his old man during the week. They're wanting apologies of people, and Sugar Hill's a hired hand, and just basically slagging everybody off. I'm like, oh, fuck this, man. I've been here and heard it all before, and we're still nowhere closer to getting the fights that we want. Firstly, he's wanting 500 million to fight. Then he's planning to retire. Then Frank's saying, he can maybe take that fight for 150 million. So that's a fucking massive drop of 500 to 150. And then it's like, Dossa this, pussy that. I'm like, dude, just get in the ring and fight, man.
I just think that Tyson Fury and Teofimo Lopez need to pool their resources and open a mental health clinic.
That's actually a fair
Ryan
point.
Garcia is your third entrant there.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Lopez, actually, because it's maybe a good segue, because Lopez is another one. He could develop a real proper following, by the way, if it weren't for just shit outside the ring and squandering momentum. My man, he gets 2 marquee wins, and he acts like an absolute diva, runs his mouth. It's just coming out with the most horrendous stuff that he can come out with. And he's like, you've got Rolly, you've got Fury, you've got Berlanga. He's competing with all those guys in terms of shit talk and that, man. He sits around inactive, and then he's just inconsistent with his performances and that. Again, another one, just stay active, come up against the top competition, and ideally just shut up and fight. That's
What
your
about
job
Huey
at the end of the
Fury?
day.
Whatever happened to him? Huey
Well, I seen
Fury?
his name getting mentioned during the week there. Who was it? Somebody was mentioning his name
The
for
chat were
potential fight.
mentioning him. When
Was
did
it
he
Michael
last
Hunter?
fight?
Michael
What, did he
Hunter
take their
was-
order at the fast food joint?
Michael Hunter, yeah. He hasn't fought in 18 months. Christian Hammer was the last time he fought in October 2021.
Steve, I wouldn't be overly concerned if he wasn't to fight again for the next 18 months.
No.
Or for the next 18 years for that matter, because I'm kind of fed up with that career as well, mate. I mean,
If he had a few more fights, Eddie would be looking to put him in with AJ. I bet you any money.
He's just unreliable in terms of fitness and that. I just think whatever it was that he had wrong with him and that is still an issue, I think. 'cause he
Long
was seeing-
COVID, according to Andrew Thickett. I don't know. You hear about that long COVID all the time. I don't know. Anyway, that's a good discussion, isn't it? Keeping with the heavyweights, final fighter next weekend that I'm aware of. ESPN, Jared Anderson, 14-0. I thought at first, Matty, like a number of other people, Kosabutsky pulled out because of visa issues, which you hear about a lot in boxing for some reason. They can never get their visas sorted out. Anyway, and Charles Martin jumped in his place. And my initial instinct was, oh, that's a better fight. But the more I think about it, it's absolutely not a better fight, in fact. And I don't know what I was thinking. What do you think?
I thought about it, and I was like, we got fucked. You know, I'll say it's not the worst fight on short notice. You got to think about it that way,
Yeah.
Steve. You know, he'll have potentially have a former world champion on his resume, a little bit of southpaw experience in there as well. But you know, I would fully expect some way somehow that Anderson, the talented athletic beast that he is, to get him Martin out of there in the first half of the fight. Maybe not as early as he usually does. I think that deer in the headlights Martin that faced AJ, I mean, he's had enough fights since then. I don't think he's on home turf here, so I don't think it's going to be, you know, like that. But yeah, I think Anderson will do good, or will do well here, and I believe that you know, and if he doesn't, you know, it's good to get that Seth Mitchell moment out of the way so we know what's going on there. But my hunch is that he's certainly something more than a Seth Mitchell.
Rob, Charles Martin's not fought in 9 months. He's not going to be coming in any great shape, is he? Let's be honest.
Charles Martin, fucking hell. Fuck's sake. Possibly the worst heavyweight world champion in history. And if anyone could give me a worse one, let me know. Maybe there is one, but off the top of the head, I can't think of a worse heavyweight
John
world
Ruiz.
champion. Fuck out of here.
Nah,
John Ruiz
man.
fucking beat
John
Evander
Ruiz way
Holyfield.
better.
Fuck me.
He beat Kirk Johnson. Well, it was a disqualification.
I'm sorry, I just didn't like watching John Ruiz.
That's fair.
You gotta either did fucking Storm and Norman. You gotta fight him, Johnny. But fucking Charles Martin won his world title because a fella injured his knee and then hit the fucking jackpot and fell over as soon as AJ hit him. And Eddie, confetti rained down on top of AJ and Eddie in the ring, and they looked up at the stars and they thought, we have played a fucking blinder here. Like, and they rode that gravy train until the wheels eventually fell off against fucking Andy Ruiz. Like, but Charles Martin, man, I don't know. Like, he got a lot of money early in his career. He's probably the most overpaid heavyweight based on his talent in the fucking division. He's still floating around, like, making comebacks. I love this guy. He seems to never give a shit when he's in the ring or out of the ring. But every time he's making a comeback, and this is going to be the real Charles Martin. So, I expect him to get blasted out. Unless fucking Charles Martin shows up next week and shows me, like, goes out and handles Jared Anderson, like, but I can't see it. Like, I don't even know what he's supposed to do out of Charles Martin. Do you know that way? It's like,
Hamed makes a good point, Rob. He said Charles Martin lost to Kovnachi.
And that's a big
fucking hell.
bosh heap of shit, that fella, isn't he, last night? Oh my God, fighting a guy called Joe Cusimano.
Hey, that was a prime Konoski.
Yeah, a prime Konoski, exactly. So fucking yeah, I don't know. Anderson by KO, I'd say, after 8 rounds or something like that. But credit to Charles Martin, because if I was ever getting that braid and I was that level at anything, I'd be after getting the fuck out of it. Like, no doubt about it. I don't think I'd be hanging in for the taking the punishment and all that. Like, I think I'd be Marcus Maidana style out on a fucking island drinking margaritas or something like that. Like, I couldn't see myself getting up and fucking running at 6 a.m. So credit to Charles Martin for keeping his pro career coming. He's got dreams of being a 2-time heavyweight champion. And dreams can't come true, you know that way.
Walks out like a god, man.
Jared Anderson, Andy. I'm not really a fan, to be honest. He rubs me up the wrong way. Let's put it that way. The way they've brought him along, I think, is a bit odd. He's fought these kind of 3 Eastern Europeans in a row who had very shiny records, but were basically shit. Stepped up against Jerry Forrest, not the worst fighter in the world. Seen him go rounds against decent people. I think he got a draw against Zhang, as we mentioned, although Zhang had health problems. Banged him out. Arias had a couple of good wins on the Showbox undercard, but was 5'10", grossly undersized for a heavyweight. So this is the first name on his record, and if he gets rid of him, it's a good win. What do you think about the way they're bringing Anderson along, Andy?
Well, it's pretty kind of standard what we've been seeing with Top Rank, to be fairly recently. And that, I mean, it's just another show with the 10-round bouts and that type of thing as well. The one thing I'm a wee bit disappointed actually is not having Richard Torres on the card. I don't know if he's injured or whatever. And that.
He was injured last time I heard you.
Was he? So, because again, it just seems to be petering out in terms of momentum for that guy in that way.
I hope his mustache is okay.
Yeah, he looks like a porn star with it. But to be fair, I like Anderson, to be fair. And that he looks like, for the size of dude that he is, 6'5", big reach. Seems to put the punches together pretty well. And that just again another one who just needs the opponents. I don't know if Top Rank's maybe got the top heavyweights. Obviously they've got Fury in that, but that fight's never going to happen anytime soon. He's got to see him gradually step it up. But as I say, I was reading some comments from him during the week there that he's talking about retirement and about, I'm sure it was like 26, 27, 28, which if that's true, he's only got 3-4 years to try and make a dent in the division, which obviously it might change in the next couple of years. But to be fair, I just don't know who he's going to be fighting anytime soon in that. I'm just looking at some of the names here again, trying to kind of differentiate who's the different promoters that they're behind. I don't know really. You got any names you can throw out? I mean, obviously the usual ones like we just mentioned there, like Frank Sanchez. Is he a PBC fighter possibly?
Oh, he is definitely.
Yeah. Obviously, you might want to tie in with Frank, possibly with Top Rank, maybe try and get.
Makhmudov's on the undercard, isn't he, Andy? Do you think that there might be sort of setting that one up between them? Because he hasn't looked great, has he, Makhmudov, in the past?
Another one who's been fighting the kind of level below and that. We just don't know what Makhmudov has really got in terms of resistance and that as well. He's got the size, he's got the reach. Does look a bit gangly, I think, in that as well. Big, massive dude. It would be interesting to see if he gets the pressure put on him to see what he would do. That might be the ideal fight, actually.
He's got a handful of these undefeated prospects, Andy, at heavyweight.
What's the names? What names
he's
you
just
got?
not matching them. Well, you had Mr. Mustache, and then
Torres, man, but he's only like three fights in his pro career.
Jagbo, I thought they would maybe stick him in with.
Yep, and then there's just some people floating around there that would be good that are kind of free agents. A Demarizin would be good on there. I mean, he had that win over Kaunowski recently, and I don't know that he's necessarily tied to PBC by any degree.
Joe Parker,
he's been out of the ring since then. Just sitting on the fucking shelf. There's a lot of decent heavyweights they could be matching him with, but I think Bob might be getting in a situation where he lets one of these things marinate too goddamn long. He's old. He's old. I mean, doesn't he want to see these fights himself? Is there nothing that intrigues him about these fights? Seeing young prospects take on each other. Like, Bob, you could fucking die, man. Like, if you have
the thing is, he's got the relationship with Frank Warren. He can maybe try and get the Joseph Parker fight made. I mean, that would be ideal for Anderson at this point. An ex-world champion, still floating about, still knocking out bums, but he kind of loses it to kind of top level. It would be ideal to see where he's at. And if it would stop a guy like Parker, like what Joyce did, it would add a wee bit of mystique to him, possibly.
I think they're waiting for the belts to fragment Andy maybe and see if he can pick one up.
Yeah, but they know themselves that's not going to be happening anytime soon. As long as Usyk and the Fury fight hasn't been made, those belts stay where they are. Because they didn't want him missing out on that fucking Saudi money when it comes calling that, whatever it is, the 5%, whatever it is they get off him. So they want to be hanging about for as long as possible. But if it's going to be a sanctioned body that makes their move first, I think it'll be the IBF eventually, because Hergovich is going to want his chance at some point. Yeah. And the IBF kind of are pretty strong with their rules and that. They did trying to, well, we'll just leave it at that. We'll just say that the kind of the more, what's the word I'm looking for?
They're more stringent with the rules.
Aye,
Aren't
they've
they?
not got as many interim belts. If they have, then there's maybe a very good reason, like injury or whatever it is, that type of thing. But
Yeah, I don't mind an interim belt if it's legitimate, but I don't like it when people are fighting for an interim belt 3 weeks after the actual
aye,
champions fought. That's just
aye,
daylight
it's
robbery.
just
Well,
bollocks. It's just
speaking of
bollocks.
that, when is somebody going to just fucking take Charlo's title at 160? Because speaking of, PBC, if Canelo has signed with the PBC now and he's going to be fighting Charlo at 168, that title's going to have just been fucking set and undefended for 2 fucking years. Like, does anybody fucking care?
Who's
Well,
the
no.
number one contender at 60? Is that
Well,
Billy, is it not? Or Benavidez?
Adames has the interim title. Oh, sorry, no, that's at 160. At 168.
It's Canelo, and then Benavidez has got the interim belt.
Oh, right. Yes, yeah, that's right. Well, hopefully he's going. Well, let's talk about that because that was the last thing on my agenda, Andy, before we move on to Bellew of the Week. They're talking about him fighting Charlo. Charlo is going to be rusty as hell, isn't he? I'd rather see that, though, than him stick around with Eddie. I mean, what did Eddie really have to offer Canelo? Berlanga, Bivol rematch. They're talking
John
about
Ryder.
Badu Jack, John Ryder, who is already served up anyway, so he couldn't put him in a rematch. Eddie was even mentioning Diego Pacheco. It was thin pickings, wasn't it? Canelo had to go over to the PBC to finally get some decent fights, just like he did to have to go and unify with Caleb Plant.
And apparently the Bivol fight is worthless because the WBC are not going to sanction Bivol for the belt.
No, and Bivol would have stuck him on his head
he's rushing.
anyway. Yeah,
because he's rushing. I mean, that's bollocks, man. What the fuck's that got to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is slim pickings in that, but I maybe leave that one to Bellew of the Week, mate, because I've got a couple of wee comments to make a Bellew of the Week in that way, in terms of Edward John Hearn. But no better, of course. You know, he's no better. He's bitter bastards.
Yeah. What if Canelo's moved to the PBC though? In general, what do you think about that?
Well, obviously it's a logical move in that. I mean, if he fights, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if it means he fights Charlo, Benavidez, Morel,
that'd be class.
That would be brilliant. Actually, it would be class. If it's a 3 or 4 fight deal, so if it's a 4
3,
fight
I
deal,
think.
3, so that would be the 3 fights you're wanting, really. And then Canelo win, lose or draw any of those fights. I don't care. He can then go away and retire. Even if he loses some of these fights, who cares? He's fought some of the best contenders coming up at that time. So he's basically past his own era, and he's now facing the next era of fighters coming up. And if he beats those guys, then he can happily retire as one of the best of his era. Unfortunately, he's going to have the drugs test against him in that as well. But I think those 3 fights would be amazing. I believe probably the Benavidez fight for the longest possible if I was Canelo's team, because the longer he's got to make 168, the more he's going to drain his ass down and he's going to be lethargic possibly. So that would be working Canelo's favour. But if he's
I think Morel gives him all sorts of problems, Andy. I don't know why, it's just a hunch. I think Morel gives Canelo all sorts of problems.
Yeah, but it's the Benavidez fight I want to see, mate.
Yeah, me too.
It's the absolute pressure that guy's going to bring on him, man. That's what I want to see. You're right about Charlo. What do you say about him at this point? There's not really much you can say. This is Jamal Charlo we're talking about now, eh? It's Jamal Charlo.
Yeah.
So I remember, who was his last fight against?
Was it? He was supposed to fight Solecki. Was it that Montiel, or did he fight
Montiel? 12 rounds against Montiel. That's what it was.
He's been off trying to get custody for his kids, apparently, I heard.
June 2021 was his last fight, and he fought for the WBC Freedom Belt.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the kids, so if that's an issue, then it's...
Chris Butler says all the Canelo fights will be pay-per-view on PBC. Absolutely, of course they'll be pay-per-view. Sure, every fight on DAZN was pay-per-view. Every fight Canelo's in from now on's pay-per-view.
Oh, aye, without doubt, mate, without doubt. I don't know if it's officially announced yet, but it was at September, so Independence Weekend, possibly.
Matty, obviously we know the fights we want to see. Charlo, Morel, Benavidez, Andy mentioned all of those. But do you know which one I think they might sneak in? Demetrius Andrade. I'm not even joking, He fought on the PBC, didn't he, against somebody recently? Was it Demond Nicholson? Somebody like that.
Yep.
And Eddie couldn't get it over the line. I wouldn't be surprised to see them sneaking in an Andrade, to bulk out that 3-fight deal and keep Canelo ticking over for the Morel or the Benavidez as maybe the next 3-fight deal after that or something.
You know what, Steve? If you're going to get out in front of that one, I'm going to get out in front of you, and I'm going to say, unless they stack that undercard to the fucking roof, I will not fucking pay for that goddamn piece of shit. Fuck me.
I'm not saying I want to see it, Matty. I'm just saying what we could see.
It could happen. It could happen. It's possible that boxing has gotten to that low of a point. I'm not here to dispute that we could see Canelo versus Andrade on pay-per-view for the price of $80. I mean, not like see it physically, because we wouldn't pay $80 to watch it, I don't think. But yeah, you might be very well right, and that's sad, especially when you consider, like, Charlo, I think is a decent enough fight. When you consider the rest of their roster and what's available there, Steve, fuck, how stupid.
Do you think it'll all be at 168, or do you think they might pull a few shenanigans and drag it out a PBC 175 fighter or something? I can't think of any. That's literally just come to me now. It could be a terrible idea.
That's why I struggle too, is I don't think there's anybody up there. I mean, unless they're trying to find another cruiserweight to try to pull down to 185 pounds or 180 or whatever, like they tried to do to Badu Jack. I don't think it's there. And I'm fine with that, Steve. I think the fact that Canelo has held titles in 4 different weight classes, you can't forget that win over Kovalev at 175, is very, very impressive. I think he's just a big, stout 168 pounder. And he should kind of finish out his career there. And in a pinch, I don't doubt that he could still make 160.
A final one to you, Rob MB says, poor business from DAZN. All those fights and no big cash out fight. Yeah, same as Ryan Garcia, isn't it? Biggest fight of his career, went over to fight Gervonta Davis. That's DAZN all over. Do you know why? And you'll probably agree with me, Rob. You might not. It was a relationship of convenience, and it was all stacked in Canelo's terms.
I bet Eddie's fucking taking that mantle, that photo off the mantelpiece now. Eh? You fucking bitter bastards.
He'll be back to Colin saying that he's going to look at you. We made tens of millions of dollars at the zone, but he will always be known as a drug cheat.
A drug cheat.
It's not looking good, bruv. Is it? As Castillo would say, it's not looking great for Eddie in the zone. Canelo off, AJ fighting fucking Dillian White. It's a bit of a graveyard at the moment, as I mentioned earlier, like scrappings of other promotions, nearly men who never made it. That he's trying to. I remember the old CEO of Def Jam, Leo Cohn, talking about musicians and saying that we sign stars, we don't dust up bums. Well, Eddie's devoid stars, and he's dusting up a few bums at the zone, trying to prop up the subscriptions. They must be the board at the zone must be having a fucking nightmare. Like, look, lads, everything's going to be okay. We got Canelo. AJ is going to fight for the unified title. He's going to win his title back against Usyk. Everything's going to be smooth. And then shit just didn't happen. Like, Ryan Garcia gets beat. Canelo leaves. Garcia's looking to leave. AJ's fucking struggling against journeymen. Really, really can't. Yeah, I cannot see this thing going for another year. It's remarkable to me that it's lasted this long after making such huge losses, that they're still there. Now, maybe they're playing the long game. And of course, DAZN are not only involved with boxing, they have other sports that people don't give a shit about as well on their network. But
you need to remember, Rob, it's too ferocious, it's too competitive, it's too expensive.
Yeah. But even with Golden Boy and even with Golden Boy and Matchroom together, like, it just doesn't seem to fucking work. It's not happening. Like, so I don't know. Like, I don't give a fuck about the promoters or what the fighters, what network the fighters are with, or what promoter they're with, or whatever. As long as we're getting good fights. But what DAZN have been throwing out this year has been fucking shocking. Like, shocking on both sides of the pond.
Delavoye is suing Garcia. Sorry, go ahead, Matty.
Well, what's so nuts about this, when you think about it, is they have all this money invested to it here, there, and everywhere. Boxing is rife with crooked decisions and shit, and they couldn't even buy off the judges to protect their biggest investment. What the fuck? Who's running this fucking shit show? They can't even be fucking crooked in a crooked sport and turn a profit. Fuck. Goddamn amateurs, Steve. Fucking amateurs.
Matt Butters, Matty says, pay £20 a month to help DAZN. It's like one of the.
What's going to happen? They're going to set up a fucking charity line number and that, eh?
This is Edward. Edward can't make any decent fights. Please, £20 a month to help him, like the Snow Leopards. Sorry, go on, Ed.
Yes. Please pay £20 per month if you don't wish your favourite TV stream to go defunct.
Box Nation was better value.
Oh
yeah, 100%, man. Box Nation was
£12 a month. You were getting three fight cards per week. You were getting all the top American cards. You were getting all the Russian cards. You getting Lebedev getting killed on TV against Galera.
Really was brilliant. Yeah, it was. It was ahead of its time. It was brilliant.
Yeah, the ABA championships. I remember the Inter-Services championships are on there as well. It was fucking
Bunsey on the couch with Steve Lillis for 8 hours non-stop.
And asking Del Chidora about Black Britons and Black Brothers, not that stuff.
Fox Nation and Wealth TV for the 2 or 3 years that it lasted were the fucking best things in boxing.
Oh, Box Nation was brilliant, yeah.
by far.
Triller's been right off the fucking mountain cliff as well, hasn't it? Eh? Fucking Jesus.
Oh, Triller's gone. They're still doing fights. Triller Fight Nights, Andy.
Well, Triller is through Fight TV. That's what they've rebranded as. So they're kind of still kicking along like there, and I honestly kind of like watching the bare knuckle fights. I'm not saying that all of them are talented or anything like that, but in a pinch, you show me fucking two hillbillies swinging for the fences, and I'm probably gonna watch it at this point in time. It's yeah, but Fight TV it basically exists, and they got some weird cards here and there. That's I have a feeling that's where because there's no US TV for Cruz, Dezern, and Marshall yet. I'm very worried at this point in time. But I have a feeling it's going to land on Fight. But we'll see. It's I don't know. It's a weird network.
I'm laughing at that picture there, Steve, because you look at Eddie's hairline there. I seen a video of him during the week there. He was talking about the fights, and you can clearly see that he's had the old Turkish hair put in there, right? And he's on Twitter there during the week. Now he's saying, "I'm contemplating going to Turkey." I says the reason he's gone there is because Eddie loves a fucking pound note, so he's trying to save some cash, and he's going to go to Turkey for this fucking cheap hair transplant. No, he isn't going to go anywhere else. He's going to go to Turkey to save a few bob.
Bring back Avni Yildirim.
Oh, mate, you should see it. It's horrendous.
Oscar was using that graphic. I think Oscar's listening. Even Oscar, he was using that graphic on Twitter about Eddie during the week. That one.
Oh yeah, that's Value of the Week. Good stuff.
He's gonna do a walkabout through Australia to prove his love when it's all said and done.
Oh dear. Right. Anything else anyone wants to throw in? Get off your chest before we get on to Value of the Weeks. Say no. Have I missed any cards, Matty? No.
I think there was probably one that we missed like in the middle when we were off, but I think I'm fine with getting out of here in 2.5 hours today. Steve, let's fire away.
Absolutely, it's fire away. You are listening to episode 528 of the Boxing Asylum NUTHOUSE podcast. There's the doctor in the top right-hand corner. Shout out to him. Rob's here. He's been with us all night. Thank for that. Andy's here as well. So is Matty Di Gialanardo. Value of the Week for episode 528. We got sent this one by a mysterious donor going back about 6 or 7 years on London Real. It's the Gad. He's looking a little bit porkier in this clip, but he's giving an insight into what might happen down in the dungeon if you were to lurk down there. Let's listen to the old Gad.
Well, Ariel sits back and enjoys it, doesn't he? And I don't agree with that style of journalism.
He's got an interesting interviewing style. Obviously, he's come up really quick, and but now I love Ariel.
Well, it's a submissive style, isn't it? He asks the hard questions, but it's not as submissive.
Is it?
He asks the hard question in a submissive way. Yes, he does.
Which works for fighters, does it?
I don't.
It's not your style, obviously.
No, I think I'm quite honest about things. You know, I mean, but I do consider myself to be a bloke. I might not kind of have a fight with Pete now in the octagon, but I'm a bloke, As I said to you before we started, if I had to put an axe through your head, I would do it. If I had to...
For no reason either.
No, I said for the right... I said for the right reasons, I would have to do something.
I tell you what, man, that man on the right-hand side needs to get their teeth fixed out like a fucking row of condemned hussies.
When he gets the Gad's axe in his head, Andy, I'm not worried about that.
Well, exactly,
the Gad is... The Gad is asking all the difficult questions there, isn't he?
Was that the Gad when he was running Big John's house with the Chinese, eh?
Aye, maybe.
Asking for that chicken cornball.
It's really asserting himself there, as long as she knows that I'm all man.
Well, it's not Chinese this week, Andy. I know a lot of people are starting to get fed up with Big John Fisher, but we're getting sent in the content, so we have to play it. And I think maybe the people around John are getting fed up. 0 in-person engagement here from this McDonald's order. Look at how disinterested everybody is now. Here we are.
Who wants a fucking burger? 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 Bang!
Hype man, no fucking delivering it there, is he?
No.
I had to laugh actually. He was going to. I said to you during the week actually. He was going to wait for a Chinese short corner with his sons during the week there, and he got in the fucking driver's seat of this wagon that he drives, probably with fucking reinforced chassis, that type of thing. But this motherfucker's pulling on his seatbelt about 7 or 8 times so he can get it run about him to get it plugged in. Fucking horrendous.
All in that divorce
What's
early
a
today.
fucking burger?
They're sick of this shit. He's walking around. What's the fucking matter? It's just crickets. Like, do the fucking TikTok. Give us the food, Dad. Would you? For fuck's sake, man. Who wants a fucking burger? It's McDonald's. Like, how's anybody that excited about a fucking McDonald's?
I know, it's a
Jesus,
78 pence fucking burger, man. What does that tell you?
And do you think it says the guard is too honest, though? His digital trail is going straight to The Hague.
We'd like to remind everyone that this is a satirical show and all
Yes.
this is meant as a joke.
The views of
I'm
Andrew
very
Fickett-
honest. I was hacked. Gad.
Yeah, we don't endorse those comments from Andrew Fickett.
He has his own set of fucking pre-made excuses, doesn't he, Gad? Like he said last week on Twitter, I was hacked. He just said, I always tell the truth. I was hacked. The Gad. Flimsy excuse. We're going to have to start calling him Kid Gadahad.
Very good. Oh, we love the Gad on this show. Oscar De La Hoya as well is a regular appearer in Bellew of the Week. He's not happy with Eddie's cards. He says, another shitty card from Eddie Hearn in the US. Go back to the UK and watch another Fight of the Year candidate July the 8th. Virgil Ortiz versus Imantas Stallionis. He's firing shots, Andy. Is Oscar over at Eddie?
Oh, well, I seen him on his private plane. Actually, I was actually going to put this one up. He's actually like sipping a nice glass of spirits in his hand there. He's 11-time world champion, 6 divisions, Olympic gold medal. I'm sorry. And he just turns the camera around about and you see him when he's playing there, drinking his glass, saying cheers and that. Man, I thought Oscar was living the life. He looked a bit gassed. Maybe it was the same time he sent Eddie that tweet, actually, at the same time. Go back to the UK and watch another Fight of the Year candidate July 8th, which I'm going to miss, actually. I'm going to be on holiday at the time. But yeah, he's not missing Eddie, is he? The poor Oscar and that. But at the same time, as these guys have got fighters in the same divisions in the same network, and you can guarantee we're not going to get these fucking fights because these two are just...
Yeah. The
You know what I'm
Zone needs to bang their heads together, and they've repeatedly, Andy, not been able to make fights.
The Zone needs to fucking fire at 2 of those guys and get somebody in who actually wants to make these fights. But I don't know, man.
Tell you what, man, life's rough when the cross-dressing cokeheads are taking shots at you.
Lonesome Eddie. Life's rough for us as well when Johnny Horsecock Nelson is throwing in 79p.
Well, it's worth a fucking burger.
It's
at
a
least.
burger, they are, Andy. Get a McDonald's fucking
78
burger.
pence burger. What's a fucking
Yeah, but
burger?
that's-
Fucking Bosch
But
Army,
in a
boys.
family of 6 was, you know what I mean? It's not great. In a family of 6.
Feed the Waltons. John, the Bosch father, Big John Fisher on tour. Hear the life story of Big John and how Bosch has made him a global sensation. Meet and greet, photo opportunities, and a live Q&A in Morley Town Hall. on
But
the
who's the
7th of
VIP
September.
Boschers, though, mate?
Yeah, they
Sorry,
are VIP Boschers.
What's going on up in Leeds? Like, is it because the football team are after getting relegated that they're fucking searching for these? Like they have Warrington. Why are Leeds adopting for John Fisher's up in Leeds every fucking 2 weeks? He's complaining about the price of the train up there when he's getting paid to go up there. What's going on in the people of Leeds that they want John Fisher in the Morley Town Hall telling about
How big is the Chinese population in Leeds?
Ebbs is adopted Leeds as well, isn't she? They've taken her in like a Greg's pasty, like haven't they? Fuck me, I don't know what's going on up there.
Well, they've taken her in, but vice versa as well, Rob. Vice versa.
Well,
the thing is, we probably sent our fucking generational ancestor out there actually the handcuffs, so that's just coming back home, you know.
Ebbs has history, though, to be fair, Rob. She's been a massive Leeds fan ever since that 2021 Twitter poll.
She's a Johnny Giles. He has a fucking picture of Johnny Giles. She's doing content with Johnny Giles for
Johnny Giles, Jack Charlton,
Ebbs and Lucas Radaby,
Billy Bremner.
Wait, hold it there, Ebony.
Oh dear. Anyway, get along to the two. And they're Big John.
The thing is, with the XL VIP Boschers, what the fuck is that? What's this?
Big John's turned up a Glastonbury on apparently on a flag.
I tell you, it'd be amazing to see him hanging from the rafters.
You have to be fucking kidding me. What?
This is the world you live in now, Rob.
Who's done that? Like that has
to be honest, if you told me Big John was hanging for the rafters, I'd demand proof, and then I'd have seen that, I'd have been disappointed.
I'd have been trying to get away from underneath the rafters.
If it makes you feel any better, there's a timeline where you're an investment banker and Big John isn't famous. So yay for that version.
Don't like the sound of that.
Who's our Photoshop guy again? Ryan Deal? Does he do that? No,
I don't know.
Real Deal, Ryan Deal.
Ryan the Real Deal. Well, he has been up to his photoshopping skills this week, including the guard with Diamante.
Jesus fuck.
Classic deal.
He's fucking good. He's gonna boot like the guard's gonna boot like that guy like Boone. Remember what was his fucking name?
Oh yes. Oh, what do you call him? Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, I forget his name.
Yeah, it's like that kind of fucking that 80s era of fucking UK detective shows, like fucking Dempsey and Megpiece and that, like, wasn't it?
CI5, The Professionals.
There's a good remake, Dempsey and Megpiece remake with the Gad and fucking Ebony Bridges said, "What's that?"
Oh, for fuck's sake.
One Night in Leeds. Last Tango in Leeds or something like that.
Last Tango in Leeds.
We have imposters of Jim McDonald boxing. And in the chat, we have Jim McDonald boxing 4.0, and then we just have Jim McDonald boxing. And I had a day to do that over this, Steve, but I found myself.
No, that's okay.
Get yourselves a life, whoever fucking is doing that. Seriously.
We need to make Curly Watts a spanner so he can come in and sort this out and get rid of some of them.
Mavis.
You know, the thing is,
I don't really know.
I know somebody here needs to get a life, but I'm not sure who. At this point in time, is it
Mavis?
any,
Was that
all, one? What?
Wait a minute, Mavis, was that not the old woman that appeared on some show sucking off a Chippendale at one point?
What?
Aye. They go Crazy Street Chippendale or something like that.
Fuck off, man. Well, Derek's got to be just fucking devastated.
I'm sure.
Fuck off, Andy. You must be making that up.
No, I'm not. Honestly, I'll see if I can find it. Right? You can stick it up in Bell with the week.
Oh,
I kind of want you to find this just because I want to see if it's true.
You don't want to see that, Matter.
He's thinking of Deirdre Barlow, isn't he?
Deirdre Barlow, man, behind these spectacles. Holy shit.
Friggin' hell.
What are we doing with our lives?
I don't even know, man.
Me dad used to reckon that Martin Platt was getting danger money in his contract for having to kiss Gail on the
I'm telling you, it was an old wee woman. I'm sure it was all Mavis back in the day.
Mavis was a slut true, says Andrew thinking.
And if Andrew says it.
I'm telling you, I'm googling it around. I can't even find it because there's obviously a lot of sleaze in these TV soaps. And that. You've got Bill Roach cropping up. You've got Kim Marcy's sex tape cropping up here as well. I'm like, oh god, man. So anyway, Google. I'm sure it's Mavis. Her name was. You got that Roy Cropper apparently who's going to marry a man who's. Or a woman, whatever it is, has got a cough. I'm not too sure, but fucking thinking about it right now. Julie Goodyear, remember her? The big hair.
Mavis sounds like a 65-year-old black woman from Mississippi.
Oh, aye. Got caught fucking romancing.
She's about 80, Matter.
She got caught romancing the bone in somebody's car or something like that, apparently.
Right, I'm going to have to move on. I'm going to have to call order here.
No, never. 80s soap fucking sex scandal asylum.
I swear to God, she must have been a bit of something, Martin. She just pulled the guy's bone out, man. I'm telling you, swear that it's true.
What the fuck's
He's
going on?
on a wine up here. He fucking Mavis.
No, I'm telling you, it was her.
And I know basically none of these references, so this is even stranger for me than you guys. I hope you understand.
Don't Google them, Matter.
It's like when you would be talking about fucking whatever the fuck you would be talking about. You know what I mean?
There has to be some American flair to this show, you know. It's we gotta, you know.
Yeah,
to
exactly. Too much soft ass shit at the moment. Now. We need to fucking get the advertising going back on.
Anyway, Tony Bellew is coming back. Everybody, he's hinting at coming out of retirement at 40. He's called out WBC Bridgerweight champion Lukasz Rosinski today. Apparently, Robbie, he wants to come back.
I'm all for it. Come back. See what you have left. Why not? Maybe things are getting that bad at the zone that they're just fucking wheeling Bellew out. Like any chance of a fight, mate? You got your gloves, no?
It's down Barker.
The thing is,
in a wheelchair.
Anthony needs to tell the boss of the household, but he's going to go into a fight, and what's she going to say about it?
Who knows what she'd say, to be honest.
maybe Eddie came up to see him when he was at Asda singing "Come and get your black bin bags." Like, we're getting the band back together.
Corn beef.
We're on Skid Row, Tony. I need you back, mate.
Oh dear, good stuff. On schedule, Roy Jones Jr. will take on bodybuilder NDO champ in the first ever boxing fight in the metaverse next Friday. It'll be aired live on Fight TV, Rob.
I don't know. A lot of Roy's recent fights have ended in the metaverse, so I don't fucking know.
Fucking
factual.
Dennis Lebedev
Roy,
put him in the fucking metaverse.
What's he doing?
Roy, what are you doing, dude? Like, just for fuck's sake, just stop. The greatest fighter ever. Look at this, like fighting a big bodybuilder with a chain in the metaverse. Is this how it's supposed to end for fucking Roy Jones? Like, for God's sake. I mean, we know fighters go on too long and all, but Roy's taking the piss at this stage, like, isn't he? He had his retirement and his farewell fight 5 years ago, and the cunt's been back in the ring about 10 times since. Like, he's worse than Bellew. Fucking hang it up, Roy. Like,
but Bellew was meant to go away and retire, enjoy life, and want to be a recluse. Fucking hell, man! He's fucking name a recluse, and fucking what's his name? Howard Hughes was.
Have you guys ever considered that Dennis Lebedev actually put Roy Jones Jr. into a coma, and we're all just a figment of his imagination since then?
maybe he hit him so hard that we're all in a coma, I think.
Steve Smoger killed us all. Thanks, Steve. It wasn't the particle accelerator. It was Steve Smoger that fucked us.
Roy needs to hang him up. Go and sit round Walden Pond with Tony Bellew. Anyway, talking of hanging them up, AB, Andy, focused on Regis Prograis. I'm on your ass like back pockets, says AB.
Come on.
AB, man. Absolute bollocks. Well, to be honest, after Prograis' last performance, that was absolute bollocks as well, but I still back Prograis, man, to up it, and maybe no stop runner possibly, but it would definitely beat the fuck out of him. Like.
I just have to say I see growth in Adrian Broner, and I'm going to give him credit. I mean, back pockets instead of rape assistance. He's definitely moving on up in the world. He's getting better.
Yeah.
Oh Lordy, as Don King said in the background the last day. Oh Lordy, you heard it here first. Let's give AB a big fight, man. He deserves it. He's fucking had a hard road there in the last 12 years. Let's get him back in a big fight.
Oh, aye. Fuck him, man.
Bitches hit the like button, says Moz Morris. Absolutely.
What's going to happen, actually? See, in about 10 years, we'll probably have Chino and Broner having a fucking rematch with Triller or something like that for like $2 bob.
It'll probably be like at a catch weight of 168 pounds when Mayorga
198.
When Mayorga and Vargas fought again.
Fight TV, BKB, Loggett, Chino and Broner, redemption.
Don King promoting. Don King will still be promoting. He'll be around.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, it's not a nice thing to say, but I was going to say, who do you think is going to live longer, Don King or Adrian Broner? I think King is favourite.
On a fair end of the spectrum, and hopefully you're not right, Rob, I'm curious who's going to go on longer between King and Aram, and I'm curious if one or both is going to hit 100.
That's a good one. Maybe have a parlay on the Matty. Parlay on both of them.
You're taking two guys to get over the age of 100. I bet I could get at least 12, 13 to 1 on that, Rob.
It's a juicy one.
I mean, they're already most of the way up there. It would have been a better bet when they were 55, but I wasn't.
You should kind of start one of those tipsters Telegram groups where you charge people like $20 a month to follow your bets.
Why do I want to make other people poor?
I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing, Matty. Don King will be on Broner's ass into those back pockets before he's retired anyway. He'll end up with nothing.
The money will
not in America. Anyway.
Mate, his money will not even reach the back pockets, man. Fucking Don King's involved.
Don King's like, I got it, man. A revolution. Relax. You gotta send it to your revolution.
I'd like to see Adrian Broner with Don King hair. I just think that'd be a kick and a half.
Just going back to Tony's announcement. That to be fair, losing Canelo hasn't turned out to be a big problem after all. You've got Bellew coming back now, so he'll direct the ship, doesn't he?
If Eddie still had Canelo, he'd be trying to put him in with Bellew, Andy.
Honestly, that's the best thing that's happened to DAZN in the last few years. They just saved like $40 million.
Canelo robbed the bank there, like.
Oh, he did.
Same with Andrade as well, I suppose.
Boys, stuck him up. Canelo stuck him up. Think about the fights he had. The hardest fight was probably he had Saunders, he had Caleb Plant. Was that a cross? Did he cross over to PC? Or was that the?
No, that was on PBC. That was on Showtime. Caleb Plant.
Yeah, that was on
meaningful fight.
Yeah, and then he had Saunders, Bivol, Ryder, Bivol.
Yildirim,
who else? Yildirim.
Callum Smith.
Yeah, a load of Callums and everything, and then he just pissed off back to the
Rocky
PPC.
Fielding. Rocky Fielding.
He's like, I'll come to the zone if I can fight every 168-pounder in Britain and fucking give me people as well. Like that'll be the fucking yeah. I'll give you 500 billion to do it like Dr.
Jack
Evil.
Cullen in Las Vegas.
Fuck.
That's an interesting fact by Andrew Thicken. I didn't know that. He says Aaron King will die on the same day as did JFK and Aldous Huxley.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, a brave new Oswald.
Yeah.
Think about it this way: if Jason Quigley had got the win versus Berlanga last night, and Canelo was still with fucking DAZN, that'd be his next fight. Like,
oh, you know it. Absolutely. Anyway, there are fights on DAZN. There's a poster to prove it. A poster for Rodriguez Edwards. Fight signed. and a special poster for it, Andy. There you go.
Date and venue to be announced, though.
Yeah.
Why not just wait till you've actually? Why don't you just wait till you get the date and the venue announced, and then just announce the whole
fight sign poster? No low kicks.
Christ. Well, at least we're getting the fight. Well, it looks like we're getting the fight. We'll just leave it at that. We'll wait and see if Eddie can bring the heavy artillery and bring it over to the UK.
Let's see. A. McKenna is busy on Twitter. This was brought to my attention. He came up with an absolute banger here, Andy. He said they need to put a WBO top 15 ranking on that submarine. Frank Warren would have found it in no time. Sounds suspiciously similar to a Kurt Ward, Madeline McCann favourite. He's getting congratulated. Fantastic tweet.
He only got 66 likes, so I think Kurt actually hit it out of the park with the Maddie McCann comment. I think, but
yeah, McKenna, you have to try better there, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Kurt Thievery.
Yeah.
48 unanswered questions.
Oh, dear.
Anthony Crowler will get to the bottom of it.
Rich
John
Pallet.
Thompson. Oh, by the way,
yes,
this guy. I tell you what, it's coming off the layoff. I still back Saunders to beat this fucking bum.
Oh, definitely. They've been going back and forward on Instagram anyway. Saunders says, "I'm looking for a comeback fight. You available, you bum?" And Berlanga says, "How's your eye doing? You could see now." And Saunders says, "I only need one eye for you, pussy boy. You got a record full of bums. So when you want a lesson, hit Eddie up. Bring your mum over also, because after all, you'll be calling me daddy. Good boy."
Straight for the jugular.
The banter.
He's mature like that. He goes straight for the mother.
The high school banter never ceases to amaze me. It's just always bright, always hits the spot.
There's that traveller charm.
Traveller charm. Love it. Roman Fury, talking to Traveller charm, brother of Tyson, faces his second pro fight. It doesn't look like much of a fight there.
Whose phone number's that, Steve?
I don't know, to be honest. We'll just get rid of that one. I'm not sure. Well, congratulations to them, whoever it was. They always catch me out, Andy, on the with the screenshots.
I love this one, yeah.
This is what that
GDPR compliant Asylum.
Accept all cookies, Asylum.
What are the loaded cookies, oh mate?
Oh, exactly. So what's going on here then, Andy? Promising the world a massive fight that never happens.
Well, as you say, Tyson Fury's obviously promised us the big fights, and that one reason or another he's maybe been partly to blame for no happening. Then we've got our man here on the left, Gollum Progrosian, going to kick Putin's ass, going to give us the biggest fight since fucking Fury pulled out of the Usyk fight, and then he teases us all to the end and then pulls back. So yeah, I thought that was a quality one. Deserved its place in Belly of the Week, actually.
Absolutely.
I think Tyson just found his father. Jesus fuck.
He's probably less annoying than his father. A couple of Eddie ones to finish us off with here. First of all, Eddie getting stuck in with Helen Yee. It's all about boxing for Eddie, but apparently not. A bit of a Freudian slip back in the day. This is Prime Eduardo.
Helen Yee here with Eyes on the Game here at the MGM, being joined by the man of the hour, Mr. Eddie Hearn. Now,
very few give him a chance, apart from the educated people in boxing that go, he can fight, you know. So it's going to be a tough task, and you know, it's not been the best preparation for Anthony Joshua. But
the breast. Here, is that her that Pule tried to get into, by the way?
Oh, that's Jenny Sushi. God's sake.
Yoshi, you know who she is, eh?
Jenny Sushi. Can't confuse Jenny Sushi's in your Helen Yees, for God's sake, Danny.
Eyes on boxing, apparently, Rob, that account.
He was looking for bags there. That's what he was doing.
Oh, good old Eduardo. And you have sent us another one as well, Andy. Do you want to give us a little preempt of what this one might be containing?
What's this one again?
Confidence Eddie. I think a fight hype video you sent to me earlier.
Oh, right, aye. So he's just basically giving his opinion on the Viterbi of Callum Smith fight and how it's going to end.
Oh, okay. Let's have a listen to Eddie. We always love hearing from him.
Callum Smith is going to knock Beterbiev spark out, right? You know, like a face down knockout. No, well, listen. You're not being very brave because Beterbiev's the favourite. But watch, see this now. Sometimes you see it, right? And he's going to be up against the rope, and Beterbiev's going to come in like he does. He's going to square up his feet, and Callum's going to do what he does best, which is counter with the left hook, one punch knockout.
Woo! Edward, I tell you, see if that was anybody else talking about their fighter getting face planted, Eddie would be going, fuck it, have Coogan on speed dial. Coogan, get your ass up to fucking HQ Towers Monday morning. I'm not happy about this. Who the fuck does he think he is? Face plant my fighters, disgraceful fucking comments, all that type of stuff. You can imagine it. Bitter bastards. That's what you'd be coming out saying, man. But is it somebody else's fighter? Oh, it's a different story, eh?
Fair game.
Yeah, he sucks.
So, said all that with a straight face as well.
I was trying to find that picture of Beterbiev when he's like looking, like screwing up his face. I forget what it was for again, actually. That would have been an ideal response to it. Beterbiev's going to be non-flustered with that one, man. That's a lot of body for him to be punching. Looking forward to that fight as well.
Beterbiev, Callum Smith. August, that one, Andy, I think it is, isn't it?
I think it is, aye.
August the 19th, I want to say. Could be right, could be wrong. That's all the nominations I've got this week. Do you have anything to throw into the pot of stew, Matty?
Yeah, I'd like to give one to Jim Gray, who before his in-ring interview with Luis Arias said, going to bring Luis Arias in here, and we've got our translator with us, at which point Luis Arias says, I speak English.
That was like that's like they said about Brendan Rodgers, wasn't it? He gave the team talk and then gave the full team talk in Spanish to Emilio Aguirre, and then when he turned his back against Aguirre, was like, I can fucking speak English.
They do that, but somebody else walked in and gave the whole team talk in Spanish. Not a cunt in the room spoke Spanish. I think it was one of the earlier clubs. He was at Reading, possibly. He walked out and like, does anybody speak Spanish in here? What did he just fucking say?
Vamos,
Vamos, aye, fuck off. Okay, brilliant.
Good nomination.
I never said one bad word about him anyway. I know that.
Bash. Absolute lies. I wasn't even going to message you actually to find out how you were going to feel about that move. I just left it. I knew you'd be raging.
I never said a bad word about the guy. I don't know where this has come from.
Anything else, Matty, or just Jim Gray?
That's all I had.
Jim Gray's enough for Matty. Andy, who have you got this week?
Another one for Eddie, obviously for his interview. Kind of talking about Canelo moving on, the DAZN PBC a deal and that. It's the best move. But Eddie drops a line off. But the money saved on Canelo, of course, will result making the mega fights. The absolute partners that this fucking guy comes out with, man. The big fights. This is the guy who says it's too ferocious, it's too competitive. Yep, Showtime's going to be out of the sport within 18 months because they're looking at this is too expensive. So there's no fights for like Charlo and that over at Showtime. Come over to DAZN.
It's hilarious that Showtime ended up with the biggest mega fight there is, like in the end of it all. Like
they're probably putting the best cards all year, to be fair, actually, Showtime. So not bad for a company that's out the fucking sport, I suppose.
Poor Chuck Lee normally gets 40 more minutes of show.
Chuck Lee's when he does right.
One for Joshua Franco for missing weight by, what was it, £7?
Yeah, £6.5. Yeah.
And apparently they knew about it at the start of the week. That's just fucking outrageous, man. You had one job to do, you had two jobs to do, and one of them you failed, so not really giving a shit about that career now, actually.
That's why he's so depressed. Like, God, I'm fat.
The Boss Shoulder Army, actually, I've seen the Field Marshal General making a big call on that to his fight fans. So, Seas in Brighton, apparently, Boss Soldiers. So, make sure you're knowing that area. When is that again? Boss Soldiers, 22nd of July. So, make sure you're knowing Brighton that weekend, boys. One for Conor Benn and Eddie again, actually. So, Eddie Hearn's confirmed that basically there's a deal in place for Benn to face Chris Eubank, right? So we're still not had anything clarity about all the facts coming out yet. And that we're still just to be served up all this pish, and for him to continue as is. Meanwhile, a week before, fucking Conor Benn is tagging in Jerome Boots Ennis. You want to fight, mate? You want to fight? And then a week later, he's then got a deal made with Conor Benn. Fucking, just leave it alone, man. You've got no intention of fighting any of the top guys. If it's no Brook, if it's no Pacquiao, or if it's no Eubank, he ain't interested. One for Boxer. Apparently, they were cold calling fans on Friday to buy tickets. What's it this guy says? Don't get why Boxer cold contacted fans to buy tickets on Friday, saying you were still fighting. This is to ADAMES.
The Asylum fight. That's right. Yeah.
I bought a ticket after receiving that text purely to see you, and they would have known at that point that you were injured. Should be a refund, surely. Was Azim no actually pulled off that card last week or the week before?
He pulled off a long time before unofficially, but it wasn't officially announced. But they're accusing Boxer of selling tickets off the back of him still being on the card. Apparently.
What a bunch of cocksuckers! That's fucked up.
Who pulled him off? Mavis, was it?
I don't really know.
Nearly ends up.
Did anybody catch the tweet for pro boxing fans? Apparently, Prince Patel got oxtered for the fucking York Hall at the big Fraser Clark fight.
Oh yeah.
And see all the comments that like Lyndon Arthur, Sandy Ryan, I think Cassius Connor and all these guys, and they're all fucking piling in, laughing at them. And I think Sonny Edwards had a few comments to saying that as well. Don't know what the fuck happened, but Prince Patel's apparently taking legal action. # show me the money.
Another one, Andy, I spotted as well this week. I don't know if it was a spoof or not. Ricky Burns fighting Willie Limley.
Yes. Fucking gone back to Twilight Zone now, mate. Jesus Christ. Burns
on ITV, is it? Alex Arthur on the undercard.
Me. ITV, ITA. I don't care. I ain't watching that shit. Obviously, the Badou Jack Canelo fight. You know, this shows you Eddie talking about options for Canelo. So he probably went to Badou Jack. Oh, by the way, the weight difference is too much. You got to come down 20 pounds under the cruiserweight limit for the title to be on the line. Fuck off, man. We're not going to see that fight happening. And as I mentioned, Eddie, the absolute part merchant, as we mentioned here, he's a little bait and switch and that. He's talking about AJ fighting Wilder, and then he's fucking bait and switching to AJ against White. Just the usual shite, man, you know. That's all I've got.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andy. Rob, anything from you, please?
Nothing from me this week.
Oh, nothing from Rob, nothing from Ozzy. Let's go through them and see what we've got before we make our picks for 528. We've got Oscar going in on Eddie. We've got the Bosch Soldier Army.
Oh no, sorry, I had a brilliant one. Fuck off, now, will you? Jesus Christ. Rick Glazer had a tweet today. Happy birthday, Daniel Kinahan. Said, and it wasn't lined up. So great bunch of lads, Rick Glazer there and DK.
Nice.
The only one that's remained loyal to him actually since he had a lot of fucking fellas wishing him happy birthday a long time ago, but they weren't front and center today. But Rick Glazer's hanging on to that spot in Dubai, baby. Happy birthday, DK.
Got to admire loyal people, you know. I admire it.
Happy birthday, Daniel. Getting a chance to be sub there, mate. Cut $1 million a day, fine, mate. I'll wash it for you. Don't you worry about that. I've got
Glazer's more loyal to him than Bomber Cap. Oh, Jesus Christ, happy birthday, Daniel Kinahan. That's saying something in today's climate, isn't it? Fucking sanctions list and everything is fucking happy birthday.
Even Sam Jones was like, I'd delete that if I was you.
Scam Jones.
Easy, Rick.
Oh dear, the rats are jumping off the ship, but Rick's still there. Tony Bellew's trying to come back for a fight. Roy Jones probably shouldn't still be fighting. AB's on your ass like back pockets. We're having fights signed through a poster. We've got Kurt's joke being repurposed, repackaged. We've got Billy Joe Saunders going in on Berlanga, Roman Fury. We've got Derek Cooper there with Fury as well. And we had the videos. We had Eddie confident about Smith icing Beterbiev. We had Eddie's Freudian slip. We had Big John's order. And we had the other video. The guard. It was classic guard, actually. So, a few decent ones this week. Andy, who are you going for?
I'm going to go for Edward Hearn, mate, for multiple offences. Too many of them. I mean, he's talking about, we've saved money from Canelo, so that will enable us to make the big fights. Fucking keyest piece. And then he goes for Wilder to fucking White. So a guy who's bringing the heavy artillery and bringing the ferocious competitive nature, isn't he making it? Isn't he making the big fights? I mean, the cards have been deplorable, to say best. Yeah, so one for Eddie, and plus as well for the looking at the breasts and that as well. I thought that was really good.
Breast is best for Eddie. Who are you going for this week, Matty?
Oh, I got to go for Jim Gray. That was fucking classic.
Jim Gray for Matty. I'm undecided, Rob, so it could be riding on you here. Who are you going for?
Richard Glazer.
Yeah, I like that one.
I fucking believe he said that on Twitter. Holy shit.
Gotta love Dick Glazer.
Dick Glazer. He's made some of the best fights in boxing. I don't quite know what he does, but yeah, he's arse licker in chief. I'll go for him as well. Congratulations. Rick Glazer, you are the Belly of the Week winner for episode 528.
And if you can plug any sponsorship for the show, Rick, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We're open.
Get us any
Aye, we're
sponsors
open.
for the show.
Legs,
Just let us
bum
know.
cheeks as well, mate.
Yeah, get in our back pockets, Rick, if you want.
Yeah.
We're happy to do that. Shout out to the super chatters. Who did we have today throwing in super chats? We had Ricky Graville, who seems to have disappeared. Not Rick Glazer, only one Ricky G in our life, throwing in a $5. And Johnny Hall, Scott Nelson as well, throwing 79p. Loads of super chats tonight. They obviously missed us last week, Matty.
I think I think we're being reprimanded, maybe.
Aye, maybe we are. Shout out to John Kearns, who returned over at patreon.com/boxing asylum. He didn't even realise his subscription had ended. And as soon as he did, he came straight back to us. If you want to join him, go over to patreon.com/boxing asylum. That's what
We need to start putting that shit up by like €200 a year, like the zone. Get him in at the fucking, and then not tell him, and then all of a sudden they go to renew us like fucking 200 bills. Too late. Talk to the customer service team. Fuckface.
Or ring them the night before, Rob, and pretend that guests are coming on the pod and all. And
yeah, we got all the big interviews are coming here. Yeah. We have fucking such a need.
Oh, thanks to Rappy. Rob Kelly has been with us all night tonight. Great stuff. Andy's been with us as well. So is Matty. He'll be in the red hot seat next weekend. I've been Steve Wellings. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe on your way out. See you all again, same time, same place for episode 529. And bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to ADAMES!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch.
I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumple fucking Stiltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. 7 year ain't.
I will fucking smash fucking you. I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds. Simple as that.